some of the insight is back. We will see on this episode, by the way, because it started a little bit later due to the extended BLG versus IG series. We'll see whether I can just use natural light and appear how I ought, or if I have to bring in the artifice of, stage lights and filters or whatever. I wish I had filters on this show. It'd be amazing if we did actually or whatever. Although that does remind me randomly of like a random piece of lore, which is really old school for some of the insight. Right? How old were you? I know you were obviously around the pro scene, but did you ever see the really old school, like some of the insight where, for example, like me and Monty lived in Korea, or like the early days where we were just like, I was in my bedroom with that big coat or whatever. Did you ever watch
the jacket Thorin for sure. I remember, yeah.
Because there was one that we did way back in the day where, this sounds mad, but I actually used to be able to get almost any guest back then because there was no beefs or anything like that. So actually we did an episode when I was in Korea where we had Expeke as the guest, which was a pretty banger like guest at the time. Like this is like back when he was like in his prime, really good internationally, champion of the else. And on the episode, I think this was like really early using like, I think it was something weird, like he couldn't use Skype or something. There was some weird reason we couldn't just use the normal old school setup. So I think we did like a Google Meet or something. And famously back then, you had all like weird, like little kid filters you could put on. And so on this episode, if anyone remembers this, Expecke himself, because he's not really the sort of person who would go on a show like this and talk about all like nerd macro shit, is he? So while we were just talking on the episode, he was like putting like fucking things on the filter, like a pirate's hat on himself and stuff. Like all ridiculous shit back in the day. Almost like the sort of stuff everyone laughed at during like COVID when everyone was doing interviews and like, your little kids like, I can't get this dog filter off, where it's like there's a guy trying to do like a, like a press interview, but he's got like a thing where he's like an AI filter dog instead of his like real, it's like that basically. So anyway, we are back, and I'll tell you what, this episode, we are definitely going to talk a lot more about series than just narratives, mate, because if you are watching any of the big leagues, fucking hell, there have been some really big back and forth bangers, like especially, by the way, obviously the LPL and LCK, but I'll even throw in there, man, I'm not really usually a big fan. I told you, if I watch LTA, I only really give a fuck normally about Cloud9 versus FlyQuest, basically. Like maybe at the beginning of the year you cared about London Thieves and Team Liquid and stuff, but they fall off, mate. That Shopify Rebellion Cloud9 series itself is fucking mental. Like there's another one, like who the fuck's in the water at the moment? Like, this is mental. So I think since we just finished watching LPL, it's the easiest place to just start off, Yamato. So we just basically, before this series went live, we did that thing where we were like, some of the insight will be live after the conclusion of BLG versus IG. And as I even told you, bro, did I tell you or not in the actual fucking Discord channel? I told you, like, basically 5 minutes before the end of game 2, I could just see the way the fucking wind was blowing Yamato. Like, you just know this is going to be some insane 3 games. It could never just be a quick 2-0, could it? Like even though it like could have been it either way on this one. But basically, mate, what's funny is obviously we'll go into the specifics of the series, but I actually think the most obvious first topic to talk about is BLG, mate, and here's why. Because if you look at their results over the last like month, on paper you can actually make the case, I mean right now it's really confused anyway, that they might be the best LPL team. You look at some of their games they play, they basically have individual games against everyone where they look fucking sick, like they look amazing at team fighting. Shadow looks like he has transformed there early in mid-game, but bro, this is nuts, because if you want them to be the number 1 team, and especially if you imagine them going international, they have got such an enormous gaping fucking flaw right now, Yamato, which is like the joke that I heard Nymera make on his stream, because that's the core stream I was watching the LPL, is that BLG stands for bad late game. Like, holy fuck, this team is criminal when it gets to like 35 minutes. And by the way, it's not about whether they have the lead or not. Like, and one of the problems is this, Yamato, as much as I actually do want to, every time I watch Shadow play, I keep thinking like, fucking hell, he's sort of like overplaying like my expectations these first couple of games. Like, wow, look at that. Look how decisive that is. And everyone in BLG says he's at the shot caller and he's the reason why they're doing so well now. But bro, if that is true, then he is like some sort of fucking like Chinese 1-1-3 or something, mate. Because you know how in BDS, last split, 1-1-3 would like carry 3/4 of a game and then hard throw the last quarter and just lose the game. You'd be like, what the fuck? Like, bro, Shadow, the amount of time, first of all, BLG is just whack in the late game. I mean, if no one saw this IG series, it is one of those games where like you will literally look away from the screen as they're winning, look back and the game is over. It is impossible how fast they lost this game. And just off a completely stupid throw where they basically just got their their top side like fucking caught out in a team fight. And then also, Shadow himself, bro, the problem is, this is one of those things where I feel like as a coach, it must be so hard to work with the players. Reminds me of Razork a bit, mate. All the genius players where you go in and do a decisive play early that get you the lead, he always does those at the end and loses you the game. Do you know what I mean? Like in the one against Anyone's Legend, even he was doing that all the fucking time too. BLG, for real, on paper, should actually be at the end of this week, like, we should be like number one by far in the uphill. We should have beaten Anyone's Legend. We should beat IG. Like, Biscuits, our fucking league. We run this. But instead, they've got all these losses now. Like, give me some thoughts on BLG, mate. This is fucking wild shit. Like, on the one hand, they're back. On the other hand, holy fuck.
Oh, it's crazy to even think about. It's like I you know, looking back at, I remember week 3, the big test was like top esports. They smoked them 2-0. Top esports looked pathetic against them.
Yeah.
And then suddenly we have these back-to-back series where against Weibo, against AL, against IG, they have these 50-minute games that just get drawn out completely because one more, I just need to close the door.
Okay.
I'm back, sorry. We have these 50-minute games where at some point, I don't know, I'm trying to think and break down what's going on with Bilibili. For me, when I look back at the previous games that they played, they did drop maps here and there against teams. But most games, there was a consistency in how they built their leads, and then they kind of just closed out games rather fast. It's like a lot of their wins were just like 28-minute wins, 29-minute wins. I feel like they were never, ever pushed into deep waters. Because the meme bad late game, I think is very, very true. It's like that game that they lost against IG, that the last 50-minute game, they were 10k gold ahead with 2 inhibs down. And Rookie, of course, did his magic where he caught Bin out there on the sweep where he just like swept and saw him recall, caught him, and then TP back. And for some reason, Bilibili, after someone makes a mistake, they also can't accept the mistake. They tend to just, one guy falls, one guy dies, they can't
just go back in.
They just go back in. They're like, okay, let's take the 4v5 then. It's like they used Aniul to kill him. I guess we have to make it work somehow. It always seems to be this process of not accepting and not letting go of a mistake. It seems like their lane phase is super strong. I'm sold now on Bin on the unique champs when he's playing Rumble and so forth. Like lane phase looks good. Shadow gets busy. Even this last game they played, Shadow was running this early game. Way looked pathetic on the Poppy. And then suddenly you get to this point where, you know, they have to come together. They need to kind of set a different pacing to the game. And they're always out of sorts. It's either on getting caught, either sometimes it's Knight getting caught on side too, in terms of how they transitioned into mid to late game, in terms of how they farm. It doesn't really work unless Knight and Bin are strong enough to like 1v2, 1v3 on side. Because that game that they lost against the Sivir and the Ornn, ID was like, okay, we can slow down. We don't have to contest every Drake. We can farm. And then Bilibili was kind of looked almost frustrated in the way they played, when in reality, they just need to set up for the objectives. So at this point, I wonder, it's like the tricky thing with what we've seen with Bilibili now, with 3 different junglers. In the beginning with Beishuan looked good too. In the beginning with Wei last year, it looked good too. And then they switched back to Shun for the World Championship. It just seems like this is a team that it comes across as so extremely fragile. Because when something goes wrong, they don't course correct. When IG is like the literal opposite of that. When IG do something wrong, they don't seem to care. They kind of laugh it off. And then they're just like, we rise to fight another day. And they give 100 no matter what is going on. They're not soft at all. They're like the hardest team ever in terms of just mentally being in the game. Because they do dumb shit. IG do dumb shit too. But it's like, there's this moments like Wei dies on Rift Herald for dumb reasons. Oh, Rookie is like, okay, I'll TP bot, I'll push out, I'll get 2 waves, no problem. We'll meet another day. Oh, my team is getting caught here. Oh, I'm gonna rise ult out and just go push top. I'm gonna wait until the moment comes, no problem. I'm just so used to this. But Bilibili, at the signs of anything, they just begin to crack and they tend to try to overplay. They always try to mechanically outplay the situation rather than having some cohesive idea in terms of how they want to close out, because the gold leads, in a lot of cases, are enough for them to just win. But if a team just takes a step back and plays patiently, it seems to just work. And we've seen it with Weibo, we've seen it with Aya, we've seen it with IG. So the pattern to beat Bilibili seems to be clearly there.
As people keep making that like half joke, half serious comment that maybe JJ is still going to end up coming in. Like, here's the problem with that. I'm actually a bit torn on this, Yamato. Because on the one hand, like I say, I do think it is actually fair that you have to point out Shadow actually clearly does seem to be one of the factors that help the team and does seem to have like clearly like positive input in like the first 2/3 of these games. But I also do think he's one of the people that like, mate, he just goes. That's why I say it's a bit like Razok. He goes way too deep on some of these late game like moves. You know, like he'll just do that shit where you like dive one screen over from your whole team, and it's like fucking hell. And in fact, the player I actually feel, by the way, the two players I feel really sorry for in BLG actually is fucking Knight and Elk. Like Knight just plays very well in general. I feel like he has some awesome fucking games. He's really good at all the current champions. But I thought actually, like, if you want to talk now bigger about BLG, not just the IG series, bro, if I was Elk, I would be so raged after that Anyone's Legend series, mate. He was fucking unreal on that Yanara. He was mega. He actually had, I think he's had like a globe since he got back to LPL. For me, he wasn't that great internationally. He was one of the players that was kind of a bit whatever. On, by the way, in general, just been really good, but I think he's been good the whole split for me. Like, I actually think, like, BLG, some of their players are spiking, mate, but the problem is, like, it's a bit, that's why I draw the parallel to, like, a Fnatic. It doesn't matter how many times you get a lead, mate, or how many times you're in a position. Like, what we define great teams by is the ability to close out. Like, here's the difference. Anyone's Legend hasn't looked anywhere close to their best, but they're actually starting to win series again. They're actually closing them out. They're making decisive plays. Like, I like that. So I don't know. I'm scared for BLG because, like I say, on paper, right now, we actually have, if you're a fan of really competitive top ends, probably the most competitive top end ever in the LPL. There's not a single actual dominant team. Like, Anyone's Legends having to scrape these wins out. IG keeps winning when you expect they won't and get the big upsets. They've now beaten Anyone's Legend and BLG themselves. BLG, in theory, either almost beats everyone or does beat everyone. Top esports still does that thing where they'll just randomly win like 2 series and you're like, fuck, I guess I have to respect you, and then blow the next one. Like, right now it's wide open, the LPL, but that's the problem. If I'm BLG, that's why I brought it up, Yamato. If it was up to you, if there really was the choice there, even though it is mental, because you're also going to play into that meme of like, they're all just like draining the fucking jungler's life force to like the fucking scryers in Warhammer 40k to make the solo lane Emperor's golden throne of fucking Bin and Knight continually be refreshed with its psychic energy so that Bin can make fucking Renekton plays or whatever. Right? It feels like that, but I'm not even memeing. If you had the choice, would you pull the trigger? Would you try and get GenG if you could, or would you stick with Shadow? What would you do?
Honestly, I'm so confused because I don't know what happened to the guy. It's like when we had that episode when there was rumored, I just assumed JJ is leaving IG to join Bilibili, and that's like going to be like a step up for him.
Okay.
And that's it. I thought that was the only rationale. And then after seeing Wei play, it's like even now, I think from what we've seen, I would imagine it's like barring the point that Mako looks better than he did the entire year, and maybe JJ just sat there and just flamed the shit out of every game or something. I don't know what the connection was. Just isolated jungle play. JJ looked better than Wei, I think. And now we're in a position where it's like Shadow. They just can't keep doing it. It's like I can't with good conscience suggest it because Bilibili just fall in the same hole. It's like how many junglers should they replace? It's like my idea initially was bring JJ over because he's going to have like the experience of playing in very, very competitive, high-pressure teams where a lot is going to be demanded of him. I was worried that Shadow is not going to cut it because he lacks the experience. It's like you when you have a roster like Knight, Bin, and all these guys that have played together for that long and they have expectations to like compete and they want to do things at the World Championship, it's like you don't really get time to kind of ease up at things. You don't get to do mistakes. They're going to lose trust in you very, very fast. Like they did with Beishuan, like they did with Wei. When these guys underperformed, they got tossed away insanely fast. And the same thing with even coaches. Would JJ fit there? You know, I can't in good conscience suggest it. It's like the problem is so much deeper because it just seems like this team. I don't know if it's a question of like a version of fatigue after being at the World Finals and then needing to do the grind from step one again all the way up, doing that in the LPL and so forth. Because even though it's like I hold Knight and Bin in very, very high regard, they've been like a mixed bag. I think also On is quite a mixed bag in terms of his performance. I think Elk's biggest problem is the fact that when the meta shifts, I think he's a little bit too rigid and sticks to what he knows. Because we've had so many different ADC metas come in and out. And when he's playing the right champion, it looks very good. But then you have situations where he's the one picking Xayah into the Jarvan that is showing, for example. And I think there is more flexibility to be had there. I don't know if, so are they going to switch junglers all the way up to... And I was thinking, if anything, they should change the JJ shift to when they're at Worlds. Because then they can use the boost and just close out the year with that boost at the end, Just do the Shun boost and that's it.
I do it. You're acting like basically these really are like power banks, and they need to save the power bank for the really long leg of the flight, And then at the moment, you still got like a bit of shadow to use up still. Like, yeah, I know what you mean. Like, basically, what you need to do is this: you need to be actually really cynical. You need to genuinely think: can Shadow get us through playoffs to Worlds? Then we take JJ as well to Worlds, and then we do the really cynical swap the second Shadow's over. And then, here's the analogy. This is a really harsh analogy. Basically, junglers for BLG are like, in fucking Gladiator, when he escapes early on when they sentence him to death and he like kills those people in the forest, and he has to go all the way back to Spain, doesn't he, across like all that land. So he has two horses and he rides one of them and then like eats that one or whatever, and then gets on the other horse and rides out. They're using junglers like that, just using them up until they get to the point. They have to use that just to get to the finish line. But I'll tell you what, if it gets in the Worlds, then I'll accept it. I'll take it. No, because that's the problem. Like I say, I agree with you, Yamato. My concern for Shadow wouldn't have been this at all. I would have thought it would be the opposite, and he'd be really intimidated by the big names and the big voices and the fact that who the fuck's he? Because remember, this is the thing people in the West keep forgetting. Like, in a weird way, Shadow is living the dream everyone pretended Reckless was when he joined T1, because they all wanted him for playing the real T1 and being like Carrier's shoes, which he never was going to be. But Shadow sort of is doing that. So if you're a Westerner, you're sort of like vicariously following his journey. Like, bro, that's the guy from Mad Lions. Holy shit, he's with like Knight and Bin. The problem is, Knight and Bin aren't thinking that, mate. They don't give a fly. Like, think about that. If I'm Shadow, I wouldn't even tell them I played in the West, bro. Because what if they look up that world to see that fucking Mad Lions when we just get banged out in like playoffs, in like planes or whatever? Like, I wouldn't want them even know that. I'd be like, oh, hey, wow, being at the top's really crazy, guys. I have this natural rookie beginner's confidence, because he actually does play mad confident in these games. Problem is, I think he plays too confident. You know what I mean? It's almost like he doesn't ever fucking step back. That's why I say I draw the parallel to Razork. It's like, man, how many times are you going to fucking go too deep? You know what I mean? You just go too deep. And the rest of the team in general, like, yeah, that's also why I think it's really unfair if you do cut Shadow, unfortunately. Because some of this turnaround does look like it's because he joined. In the same way as you tied it into, the joke is, I think we actually plays relative to the position way worse than IG, but IG's way better. So again, how could you ever kick him? You have to keep him, because like you say, even if in your brain it doesn't really make sense, like, why does he actually like look worse than JJ, but then Mako play better? I don't know, but all I'll say is this: just leave it alone. Please just leave it, Yamato. I like this. I actually like winning series sometimes against good teams. Like, because I'll tell you what, if you want to spin this a bit, mate, every time, it's gotten sick, because in the past, it used to just be that Rookie was really awesome, but I knew his teams would fail me. And it's more like you just commit into that thing of like, I'll get my heart broken again. Right? This time, I really thought it's like, nah. Every 3 weeks, there's one series IG will play well, be like a TES type series, and I'll just be like, you know what? I overcommitted to this. I should pull back, really. And then the next series, I'm like, damn it, you bastards. I'm right back in. I'm fully committed again. Because now, like, after this game here, even, like, in theory, I was watching them about to just lose fairly convincingly in game 3, Yamato, to BLG, who should be better than them. And instead, what I'm supposed to do is temper my expectations and go, okay, IG is battling for that 3rd or 4th spot. And if they can get it, that'll be cool. You can go to Worlds. I'm almost even doing it like, I'm not even making it like Rookie has to have a good result. You just have to get a ticket to Worlds. That's the prize, isn't it? Let's just have him go, pad out the resume a bit more. It's like, no, after a series like this, I have to drink all the Kool-Aid. Any more Kool-Aid? Because, mate, after a series like this, do you know what? There's a world where this team could mix it up in the playoffs at Worlds, mate. They're not going to win Worlds, obviously. But, like, this team, mate, I'm trying to think of some of the teams that are going to go. There are going to be some dodgy ass, both in the LPL, maybe 4th seed, in the LCK 4th seed. Like, I think there's a world where, first of all, IG could play in the playoffs of Worlds, and they could maybe win a series. I don't think it's impossible there if they get the right. Like right now, I'd love to see them play Handball Life. That'd be a fucking great best of 5, mate. Wouldn't you like that?
No, the main thing for me, if anything, is that we've seen time and time again that the World Championship is about the big headline is like team resilience and how you get yourself through tough games and how you adjust on the fly in terms of where the meta is. And looking at this team, it's like they all have trophies. Danny as well.
And
As
you
much
are
as
right, by the way. They don't get intimidated by losing in the game. They keep playing. They sort of do just keep their heads. Yeah,
they keep playing more than anyone because like we compare it to our life. Like they
absolutely.
look very soft. They look
Yes.
like broken completely
Yes.
in terms of where they're at. And even though I like watching Danny's teams, oh, there's like a hate-love relationship because it's like, oh, it's either genius or it's like, what the hell are we doing here, Danny, with the planning? His Worlds runs have also been pretty damn impressive. It was one of the main things that Tabe said when we had him on Sackdown was like, we were like, what are the other coaches? Well, how's the coaching rivalry? And he mentioned that Danny always gets him at the World Championship. Like Danny at the World Championship gets it done. He had the Weibo miracle run with the Shy and so forth, with Daumann and all that jazz. He seems to be a very free spirit that didn't really work out, of course, on T1 when he tried to do the musical chairs because he just seems like an artist in the way he coaches. You know, it's like he sees a canvas and it's like, I will just draw what colors come to me. And T1 really didn't like that. It's like he just threw in different rosters every weekend, which was, of course, very, very bad for them. But I do think IG as a team, it's like the same quality that T1 always brings. It's like they have this resilience. They're willing to adjust. They deal with the schedule well. It's like these guys have the experience to definitely carry them through where I think softer teams would fall apart. It's like we have so many examples. Like we're going to get to LTA later, but C9 is also an example of like a soft team. Bilibili, a very soft team. How Alive, a very soft team. And now looking over in Europe as well, we have a couple of soft teams now too, like fucking Fnatic or something. You know, it's a common trend. And if there's anything for me, like looking at the top four and the LPL issue, is that I'm comparing always where the meta goes in the LCK and I'm comparing it to the LPL, and I feel like there's always like I feel like the LPL is adjusting a little bit too slow. And I think if anything, IG is capitalizing on that. There was that game 3 against Top Esports where they slammed like Owen, Rakan, Ezreal, Jav, and Galio. They had this like GenG-esque draft. And somehow in that same game, Top Esports ended up picking Victor into Javan as example. In that moment, you need to have the guts to take the blind that should be good into the enemy champs and just take the matchup for what it is. But instead, they are leaning into things that they are used to playing, which I think is very poisonous. And I think Bilibili make that mistake, Top Esports make that mistake, and I think that IG have found a stride because looking at the last best of threes that they played was AL, Top Esports, now Bilibili. The AO series was very one-sided on AO side. They fought back here and there, but I do think it's a very I've never been so comfortable with IG this entire year. Like now with Mako playing, it feels very real. It feels very real.
No, the difference is the haters at the end of the last split just did the thing of like, we came third, but because they got sort of blasted by BLG, who themselves weren't considered to be that close to anyone's legend, it just made it look like you're third, but only because basically Top Esports and JDG fucked up their playoff bracket, and so all you had to do was beat like Team WE essentially. Like you didn't play any like really elite teams. That's true. At the time, Yamato, a lot of it was copium. It was like, wow, we had like a good 3-game series that we lost against the top team. Now this split is, if you are an IG or a rookie fan, it's a fucking mega split because they're not the best team, but they have like a puncher's chance against everyone. Like, bro, after today, they have now beaten all the other potential elite teams. They've beaten anyone's legend, BLG, Top Esports, and that's it. That's everyone. Those are all the other teams that are competing with them for like the championship, for the top spot. Like, they've got to win over everyone. And yeah, some of these series are really back and forth. Yes, absolutely. Like this one they just won against BLG. On paper, you probably shouldn't win that one, but you did. And I know what you mean. That difference is that gives me way more interest than just like, I'm just going to look for how Lucky did. Like, this team actually it's funny because the Mako angle as well is real too. Like, bro, that globe is real. Like, he just went from being, for real, nameplates off, one of the worst supports in the whole league, to being like, fuck that, he's still in there. That's Mako, bro. Like, he actually makes like plays even now. It's quite cool, yeah. It's kind of wild, isn't it?
No, I love it. And honestly, it's like if I were to, obviously, we are very biased here towards Rookie. But if I would have to throw out like some early MVP names, it's like Rookie definitely comes up. Some of the miracles that he does in these games to even keep up, like that game 3 Galio was insane, absolutely insane against Top Esports. Even today, what he did on the Annie to just bring them back into the game, on the end of us talking about On getting caught, Bin getting caught. On the other side, it was always fucking Rookie. It was always Rookie.
Yeah.
Even that shutdown they got on Aurora top, like all of his teammates were retreating. He was the one first turning, and you could see in the camera he had to convince his teammates to go, and he sacrificed his own life to get Sivir a 1,000 goal shutdown. For me, Rookie is just delivering. Like for me, I'm so happy when it happens real time, because when I'm streaming, it's like, look guys, this is what I'm talking about, and I get to say that every damn day, you know, when IG's playing.
No, it's why I always say it. That's the other thing that I hate about the whole, like, when you make Rookie versus Faker a Messi Ronaldo thing. Because it's not even really a fair comparison. Like, the difference is, Rookie's main problem is his lack of trophies in his cabinet. Yeah, by the way, I totally acknowledge that. I've never made my argument based on, like, the idea he has the best resume. Like, I'm talking about how you play in the game. But the difference is, like, we said this last week, but Rookie actually still thinks he can be the best mid laner in these games, even when he's playing against Knight and Shanks. And these people, by the way, part of me even wants to tell him, like, bro, you're supposed to be the veteran at this point. You're supposed to be the Faker Jawa who's just, you know, playing with smarts and, you know, looking for a cool angle. But I agree with you. Like, especially certain champions, bro, he still go for it, mate. He still thinks he can be the MVP of the LPL. I believe it. I don't know that he can be, but he thinks he can, you know.
Like in terms of other names, it's like Topisus we can talk about too. It's like Topisus had that dip, and then they just came back and smoked Billy with a vengeance. They just had like a slight dip. Who would your other
candidates be?
It's like top esports. I think 369 has been phenomenal. Absolutely. Like I feel like he's been so damn consistent. He's been carrying games. I feel like he's been so damn solid on even champions that I like him less on. I think Kanavi is up there too, but there's a sense of volatility in terms of how he plays that I think in the losses for top esports, it's almost as I don't blame him, but he tends to like overplay in terms of what he wants to achieve. Like he's in the mentality like he's. You know, he has to bring out the dog in him. You know, he just has to pursue things that, like he's chasing ghosts sometimes, similar to what he did at like First Stand. Like when Topis was doing bad, he tries to solve it and overplays. But I don't know if that's a flaw or that's a good thing, because in the end, they're winning the majority of the series that they play. In terms of, let's say, like Billy, I think like Elk and Knight are the ones that are the most consistent. Bin is slowly climbing there. Like his Rumble game today was crazy, but they lost. So it's like he got caught there by the sweeper.
Games, so I agree though, mate. He just has some of those games where he looks like one of the best players in the whole world. He's fucking nuts, isn't he?
For sure. And then I think AL, the no-brainer is just Tarzan, because he's been playing good even through the losses. And
he's the guy who tries so hard in the game about. You can even in the losses, like that game he had on the fucking Z where it was against BLG. He was trying so hard, it was crazy, bro. That's like some solo queue nightmare game, isn't it?
No, it's super fun. The top four is sick. I think
actually, you know, the point you're making as well is because there isn't an obvious number one team. You're right. Actually, this should be one of the most contested MVP awards ever. Like, there isn't even one player who just like, it's not like a scout thing where there's one player who dominates every game. But also because every team keeps handing a loss to all their rivals. Like, you're right. It's actually, this is going to be one of those ones where I really hope people don't let like the recency bias at the end of the split by. You really need to go back and like dig deep in all performances, because especially because remember the great thing about the Ascend group is you get this awesome sample size of all the best fucking opponents. It's not like that shit of like, you know, you played this team in week 2 when they were bad and they didn't have the play. It's actually pretty legit now. No, I know what you mean. It's really hard to pick the best LPL player for sure.
Oh, it's I think this top 4 is amazing. God bless the format. It just LPL and LCK just serves as a reminder of how bad the LTA and the LC format is.
Well, here's the thing though, we have a specific game we have to discuss though, bro, which is that third game between BLG and Anyone's Legend. Mate, this is one thing I actually do regret myself not doing in League of Legends, because I've realised sadly now there are certain things where if you don't do it yourself, no one will do it. You know, one thing over the years that I hate is that we've had, in the LPL and LCK especially, we've had so many amazing series, but no one ever makes like a master list of the best series or the best games, or, you know, and the problem is you always think you're going to remember it, but a couple of years later you'll start to forget like, oh, which was the good one. Bro, this like game 3 is easily one of the most exciting games you will see all year long. It's fucking mental, mate. Like, it's one of those ones also that has like the classic thing, which I've noticed in League is what you want. You know, in Counter-Strike, you want it to be Yamato, where usually the best deciding game goes like this. Usually you actually want one team to have a big lead, and then the other one to bring the lead all the way back, and then it goes like overtime, and then in overtime, you just want both teams to feel like they could win the game, but you know, it's back and forth, and it's like 1v1. Right? In League, I can tell you, every single time, here's what you need the game to be if you want it to be the banger third game. You need it to be where at some point in the third game, game, both teams' nexus are exposed. And that way, it makes the hype for any dragon or objective fight like 1.5 times more hype. Because if you lose it, you don't just lose, but if you get caught and team wiped, you lose the whole game. Or if you lose the wrong carry, then suddenly they can TP to your base and end it. Like that, for some reason, is like the fucking... Put it this way, I'll tell you a random ass analogy, but I don't give a fuck, you marks. It's who I am. I've never understood that weird thing that, let's say, some women are into if they're an exhibitionist, of like, you want like to, you know, do it in like a locker room, or you want it to do it with the door slightly open so that like someone could come in. Because it's like, to them, I guess they think, you know, the sort of like tension of like, oh, I shouldn't be doing it here. It's like, it's making it better for them. For me, it would make it way worse. I'd just be the whole time, oh, just fucking taking me out of it. But that must be what having the exposed nexus, the wide open door, as it were, you Yamato. That must be what it is in League, because that does add an extra little frisson to the team fight. You know what I mean? It gives it extra stakes that you don't normally have. Because this game is mental. Like, this is one of these games where I could pause this game at like a key point and you would tell me there's no way anyone's legend wins this game. But they do, mate. They do. And there's so many times they have to do like miracle fights back and some epic plays. This is a fucking banger third game. This one delivered, mate.
Oh, this game was absolutely ridiculous. I think if anything, this really showcased to me like the Bilibili problem. Yes. That they don't let go. Why do they never let go?
I know.
It's like Annie got caught ahead of the fight. All right, let's retreat. Let's give them the third Drake. Yeah. And then we have like this goofy situation like Ornn and Nautilus are like just duking it out. Yeah. for no reason. I was like, what's happening on my screen right now? So they're trying to chase after the misfortune. It's like, oh, she's lifestealing all our damage. It just seems so sporadic. And it's like, as you mentioned yourself, it's like as the game went deeper and deeper, Shadow kind of lost himself in how the game gets warped. Because at some point, it's like, tanky champion's no longer tanky. You need to adjust yourself.
Ridiculous, and he's so ridiculous, bro. Come on.
You need to adjust how you play. Like, you need to press tab and adjust your gameplay. You can't be so ingrained in the same identity throughout 40 minutes of gameplay. It's like you need to adjust and you need to pay attention to the finer details. And at some point, AL were like slowed down and could do so. And I feel like that was the game that has just broken Bilibili. I don't know. Like, it just seems. I made this joke while I'm co-streaming the third game today. I was like, when the clock strikes 30, Bilibili will forget how to play, and then they all got caught, and then the game just exploded. And then someone in my chat he said, Bilibili just turned into Helen Keller, and I had to look her up, and apparently this is
yeah, it's a famous example, mate. Yeah.
Deaf and blind author. I was like, damn, that's a bit dark, but I guess it kind of makes sense. That game was crazy, absolutely crazy. There's so many points in that game looking at it where it's like AL was winning, and then Bilibili was winning, and then Bilibili should be winning. Like whenever there's a game with 4 Nashers killed, you just know something is twisted and dark. But I do think watching something like that with the tension is at all-time high. I think this is the most beautiful League of Legends games. Kind of reminds me of that's why like the 2022 World Finals was so amazing, because the Game 5 was that where it was freaky the entire time, and it was just just balanced on a knife's edge through and through. And there's some players that really enjoy being in that, and there's some players, as you see them play, they just hate being in that. They're like doing decisions where they're kind of hoping that their part in the team fight is over so they can just like breathe. And you just see them overplaying and just noctilooting into the enemy team. It's like, oh, I'm dead. Now I get to like, oh, now my part is done. But you can't have that. You can't have that 50 minutes into the game.
No, this game had everything. Like, put it this way, at one point in the game, it looked like BLG had thrown it because they just gave up the fucking soul. Then later on, they not only like had the inhibs, then eventually they had the Nexus so exposed that it had like 1 tower left that was being attacked by minions. Then they managed to do like, then AL did that epic play where they pushed in the base. By the way, BLG's initial like base defense was unbelievable. It was like some fucking super epic players themselves. And then the fact they still lose after that, it's like, holy fuck. And as I say, by the way, that's the series. Like I say, if I'm Elk, I'm so fucking triggered because it's like the reason they lost is he was doing awesome and anyone's legend correctly identified. If we ever catch this motherfucker, it's just over. And they did. They caught him a couple of times. So that's just, I do think Elk showed one of the better Yanara performances I've seen, mate. He made it look fucking dope. He made it look really good.
Oh, definitely. Oh, it was heartbreaking for Billy, but also heartbreaking because I lost a lot of money. But that's life.
Sure.
Betting on LPL, that's what you
Yes.
throw yourself into. It's just you have to accept it.
Also, actually, one thing I actually, as a random detail, I'll throw in as well is I've never been like a massive Hope fan because there's just too many exceptional players at ADC in the LPL. But bro, this is one of those guys who just knows which way his bread is buttered. He isn't like delusional. Like I thought the way he used bullet time in this game was fucking fantastic. Some of them were almost even like zoning ones, mate, where you just couldn't come into the fight because if you do, he does that thing. This is one thing I hate, Yamato, is there are certain champions in the game that even pro players, for not because they're idiots, but just because of human nature, misuse. Like I told you, one of my all-time classics is why I actually liked your 2022 Fnatic, even though they had all those flaws, was because they could actually play the fucking Nami. Hilisan could actually play Nami properly at the time, when a lot of people, that was the part of the Lucian Nami people couldn't figure out, because most people, like even pros, would do stuff like ult way too early, or ult to like engage or something like that, right? And I always hated that, because that's one of the few champions I've played a lot. Well, similarly, I hate how many people who are really good pros in the LPL and LCK just insta-do the ult as misfortune, but like they don't like think about like, what's the terrain, and we got them trapped into like a fucking brush, like are they already coming in? Because that's one of those abilities, a bit like the Nami ult, by the way, where if you do it where the actual other team's already being engaged on, you can get everyone, bro. You can just do so, but they always do that one where you do it really early and hope you catch the first person and just kill him like 0 to 100, and that so rarely happens. So actually, the way the Hope guy plays, I actually respect his game. It looks like he actually knows like how to play within the lines, and it lets the others in the team do their job. Because yeah, Tarzan, by the way, it's funny. Shanks deserves like his praise for like last split, but I think he's one of the players who's been a bit mid since he came back from fucking international. Tarzan is just fucking insane, mate. Like I genuinely, I know what you mean. He genuinely, I could have had it last split, but this split he would deserve MVP if he won it. Especially if they end up being like, if they get to the top of the table or whatever. He's been fantastic, mate. He's a really good player. And even though it didn't work in this series, mate, his Z is still fucking fire. It's still fire. Like the amount of times he does the moves on it where you're like, I can see why he just goes to that pick every time it's available, mate. He's bonkers.
As if you just isolate the three last series AL played after that banger third game against Billy, I feel like AL is back. Like if we make the comparison now in the top four, if I just look at the last three games, it's like they IG didn't play so well against anyone's legend, but you could see the foundation of AL was back in terms of how they move on the map, how they close out. It's like their leads were really meaningful. You could see the clear line. There was no like random team fight flaws. It's like we just 1 week ago, not the previous week because it's Monday, but the week before the last week, we had situations where like Hope was just like ulting in on Kai's in awkward ways. They were like having team fight situations where they just look uncoordinated. Flandre looked like he was back on pretty much JDG like he played last year, where he was kind of out of sorts, and you could see like the flow of his play. But all of a sudden now, in this last week, the three series that they played after that Billy victory, especially the IG one and then the
They're back,
Weibo one,
yeah.
they are so back. They are so back. If I just look at these three ones, and someone told me gun to my head who wins LPL, I'm back on the AL train. Just if I look at these three series, and I have learned this year that it's much better to look at a team through the lens of the last three series than looking at it as a whole. Because those score lines are poisonous. Very, very poisonous. The last three series matter so much. Because I would go so far to put Billy now, even though the score is so far up, they are the fourth best out of all of these teams.
No, I know what you mean, because the difference is you are waiting when Billy's leading in game 3 fight when they're going to lose the game. Like you're not thinking, oh, they're going to close out, awesome. No, I know what you mean. Like if I had to put it this way, if I had a gun to my head right now, I would take anyone's legend to win this split, especially because like the difference is their flaws have gotten, like you could see they were the hardest hit by coming back from the international break. And then it's like every week they've gradually gained like 5% of the power bar back. And they're at like 90% now. Like they're almost there again. Like they're looking like they're perfectly peaking to go into the playoffs and just be the best team in the BO5. So, and I also think as well, actually the BLG series is a great example of it. Mate, they also are one of the only teams that actually I think has like consistency to their style of player. Like what they do to me makes sense. Like I feel like they don't like panic in the same way. The problem with the BLGs and the top esports, they're so fucking up and down, mate. They're just like this. You can never tell in the same game how they're going to do. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Right, here's the thing, Yamato. We have plenty of other teams to talk about, but this is an appropriate moment. So what I'm going to do is this, right? Since Yamato's got a bit of a cough, a bit of a bad throat, right? I'm going to prepare not just an ad, but essentially like a little one-man skit. It's going to be like an off Broadway, one-man play in which I show you something. So just watch this. I'm going to play both parts, Yamato. So here's how it's going to work. When I'm facing this way, that's going to be me, Thorin, the esports historian. And when I'm facing this way and talking like that's going to be like just a pleb. Okay, so get ready. I'll introduce this whole thing for you. Get ready. So wait there 1 second. Let me just pull this up. Let me just make sure I got the right one here. Listen, it's going to be worth it. Don't worry. Don't even worry about any of this. It's all going to work out, boys. Right, so here we go. So, yeah, there we go. So if I'm facing this way, that's Thorin. That's why I'm listening to the Raycons there. And then when I face this way with no Raycons, I'm just a pleb, a Rayconless pleb. So here's how it goes, right? So like, jitterbug straight to my brain. Oh, sorry, what? Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you. I was just listening to my Raycon everyday earbuds. Oh, why couldn't you hear me though? I was right next to you. Well, they actually have active noise cancellation. It's one of the features that they're most proud of, actually. It's a great price point in the market for it as well. Maybe you just don't know about that then. Oh, okay. I had them long, have you? Yeah. No, listen, they're great, mate. I use them all the time. I used to be one of those boomers with a big headset, like that. Definitely don't use that anymore. I don't even know why that's it. Get that shit out of here. Anyway, I use them everywhere. I go to the boss with them, to the gym with them. I know I don't look like I work out, but it's all mental. Anyway, and then also, I'm out at parties, all that sort of shit. Yeah. Well, I mean, surely you can't really do all that stuff with it. Eventually, you'd run out of battery life and you'd have to recharge, wouldn't you? That's where you're wrong, because what you don't understand about Raycon everyday runs, especially the new ones, this brand new updated version, you're probably thinking of the old ones. The new ones are even better. You have to understand they have 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery. Fucking hell, these Raycons sound really good. If only I could also purchase them and enjoy said features. Well, you're in luck, because do you know what? You can actually get some and support a content network called LFN, Last Free Nation, by going to buyraycon.com/LFN to get 20%. You get a discount. You can get them cheaper than I did. You get 20% off the fan favorite everyday earbuds classic. By Raycon. Thank you to Raycon. You also could be like that pleb, but stop being a pleb by getting some Raycons. That is not guaranteed that you will stop being a pleb if you buy Raycons, but you will have some awesome Raycons that are really good and have all the features I mentioned. Anyway, that ends my one-man play.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. Okay. Listen, I had to bring the heat. It's a one-man show, this one, mate. It's all good. It's all good. I got you. I picked up the slack. It's all good.
Shakespeare. It's just modern-day Shakespeare.
Listen, it's in my blood. That's my birthright as an Englishman. To entertain the world. Anyway. Wait there a second. Yeah, anyway, whatever. Right. I think we talk now about LTK. You ready?
Let's go for it.
Let's do it. So first things first, as I pointed out last week, the actual team I think we can make the most conclusions about after this week, Yamato, is Hanwha Life. Because as I told you, they were facing both GenG and T1. And obviously, by the way, because of the way the LCK works, it wasn't that long ago they played some of these teams before. They just played T1, feels like a month ago or something, right, at this point. So these two series, as I told people, it was good. There's only 2 ways this was going to go. Either Hanwha Life plays great and they're right back into that mix, and the LCK itself is what we want, like all the top leagues to be, just really good teams battling back and forth, heavyweight classics, fucking rock them. But it isn't, Yamato. Sadly, this week really did show. I mean, as you said, I agree with you. The number one word I would use to describe Hanwha Life is like they are just fragile, mate. As soon as things go wrong, as soon as they are behind, you can even tell, like, I don't think even they believe they're winning some of these games, mate. Some of the times Peanut has to go in. It's like you even know you're dead in 0.1 seconds and the fight's over, innit, bro? Like the person I feel sorry for in this team, another ADC, is fucking Viper, mate. Because this guy has to do everything to win a fight. It's crazy. They're griefing this motherfucker so hard. Even Zeke is still having, like, flip a coin. He just has a bad game half the time, it feels like. Oh, it's rough. Because again, the thing I'll never be able to handle with this squad is it's not even like they're shit the whole time, Yamato. They'll have like in the GenG series, they'll have like the start to a game where they're looking like, hey, they're fucking confident, they're bold, they're going for it. But it just doesn't hold up. And this is another team for me that just fades later in the game. Like, I want to believe in all the Peanut macro and all that. Fucking hell does it fade, mate. It fades as the game. What do you think of Hanwha Life? What do you think, mate?
It's like out of the lane phase, I think they look solid most of the time. It's like Peanut. It's like if I think his success rate on what he tries to do in the game looks very forced. Like yeah, that Vi game that was pretty damn good,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it kind of relied on GenG overreaching. You know, if that overreach doesn't happen, then suddenly, you know, it's the same old Peanut that is kind of like lost on the map because there was that sequence where him and Zeus got like 3 kills in the top side because someone just kept walking out like a lemming on the same wave and Ambessa and Vi just got kill after kill and they broke the tier 2-2. And that was like the best Peanut game we had seen all split long. The main issue, if I want to like look at something beyond Peanuts, because Peanuts' form is just very very bad, and he's playing against demons in Owner and Canyon, so it is going to be showcasing itself. It's like Delight looks good on the champions he plays, but everyone's aware of what Delight plays, and they target him and they trim away at his champion pool. And you're now at a point in time, especially due to failures, that you can't lean on the same 3 champions to have like the S plus tier level performance. You need to have range, and this is something that Delight lacks. There's something about Viper and Zeus in the way they play, where they make mistakes that are uncharacteristic, but it just seems to be the hallmark of a team that kind of have lost composure and lost the identity in themselves because Zeus can have a game where he is playing brilliantly on the Rumble and he's like doing things in the 1v2, has really, really good ults, and then he's like overreaching, dying, and trying to like do 1v3s. For what reason? It's like, yeah, he doesn't see a vision for how they're going to win the game. And I can see the same from Viper, where he's like aggressively trading on midwave just to try to find something or anything at all, because obviously these guys, Viper and Zeus specifically, the way they move and the way they lane, you can see that they are in really, really good form. But in terms of where the team is at now, it's like how life. Like I don't know what to say. It's like Zeka is slowly getting better, slowly a little bit more like consistent. But I think the main issue for them, and I think a challenge that a lot of the teams are facing now in this format, is that the LPL has had this format for quite some time. And a very cute, like big difference with the LPL is that even though you face up against, let's say, the best in the league, there's still going to be, in a lot of cases, a pause. Sometimes they play back to back for some reason, for scheduling errors. But the fact that you play 8 teams in comparison to 5, it's like that compression. You feel the good form of a team so much more often, and you have the lower end teams where they only play against each other time and time again, and it's just on rotation. And I can see like it affects a team like D plus in terms of like where their motivation levels are and how they're playing.
Yeah.
And they're just playing like way worse, like in terms of not fighting against resistance. Right. And also, if you're playing in the previous LCK format, like both splits started, like in winter, we started off with GenG just smoking How Alive. And then it was such a distant memory by the time they played again that it no longer had an impact. But here, there's just so close proximity to everything, and there is no real breathing room for you to regain form because you need to just focus on the next one. It's like you get to play against T1 How Alive on the same week, and then T1 GenG on the same week, and then you need to play them again before the round robin is over, which is crazy. Fun for us, but if you have bad form, it's extremely, extremely punishing because there's just no distance between the matches. And I think How Alive was always a team looking at even Winter Cup and also in spring. They had series that were bad. They had series that they could kind of get away with, and they kind of slowly ramped up. But here, like they're just getting smacked on the head. And I think the psychology of winning series 2-0 against a Bro, against a DRX, and having like 2-3 weeks go by where you're just stomping worse teams, I think that can really, really help you. And also at the same time, I'm really intrigued to find out, maybe it's something that I can ask Mowgli personally, it's like, how do they actually run the scrims? Does the upper group scrim against each other way less?
Right.
And are they only scrimming the lower group?
Because obviously you don't want to scrim the guy you're playing next week, right? That's the logic,
Because these are teams that are playing each other so often, so are they missing out on that practice? So when a team is in great form like T1 and GenG, how do you really catch up to them without getting the active practice against them? So there's a lot of nuance and new things that the teams have to deal with this format, and it seems to be affecting How Life so harshly, especially after that first stand loss. Not the first stand loss, sorry, but the qualification for MSI where they got 3-0 and then also, of course, reverse swept. It just seems like they haven't recovered at all.
And the worst thing is as well, like I would even, that's why I like actually how you group those teams together, like Fnatic, BLG, Hanwha Life. Because another thing as well is, this isn't like when anyone's legend was playing bad when they came back from the international. They were just bad, mate. Like they had a lot of times they struggled in games, they were behind and they couldn't get into the game. And in the mid game, they couldn't win the team fights, right? It's not like that with Hanwha Life. Like if you watch both this GenG and T1 series, mate, the T1 series, the first one, is heartbreaking because both games, the first two start out like, bro, Hanwha Life's getting all these picks and kills and they're like accelerating the game. And then the idea you just get smoked. And then same thing, even against GenG, they were making all these aggressive early game moves. But once it gets to a certain point in the game, and especially like you say, once they sort of take like the body blow, oh, they react so fucking badly to it, mate. Like that's one thing I'm also really sad about with this squad. I understand Fearless has changed this dynamic, but I actually look at players like Peanut and Delight. So I want these guys to have like some veteran poise, you know, and sort of like have a way of staying in the game, but they get blown up so fast. Like it's so sad. Because I feel like Hanwha Life, I know part of it's like just looking at the names, but they still feel like they could be better than this. There's like an extra gear they can't get into. And the reason it's so sad is, like, as I pointed out in the last episode, when they then play anyone worse, like a kid, they just smoke KTs and Nongchims of the world. Those teams just get kicked the fuck out. I know what you mean, though. What you're basically referring to with like the difference in playing in this format, where you're playing only good teams in theory, is I always used to think the worst thing about the narrative storytelling in the LEC, in the EU LCS, was they would always ignore strength of schedule, bro. So what would happen is you'd play like a BO1 against like Fnatic, they'd booty blast you. Then you'd play like, you know, fucking like H2K or something. You'd win that, and then the broadcast would be like, they bounce back with a win to make it a 1-1 week. And you're like, who gives a fuck? Like, we're not going to see H2K Worlds, are we? But the difference is, I know what you mean. There's no breaks in these Ascent groups, mate. Once you get in that killer group, if you start playing badly, like in this case of fucking Hanwha Life, it's just back to back to back to back teams that can fuck you up at that point in time, you know. And especially, and by the way, the D+ one is actually tragic. I've only watched the odd game, and on paper, they were supposed to just run that lowercase group, similar to NIP was, by the way. And it has not been that way at all. I mean, the joke is, if people don't know, Brion's now beaten D+ twice. And by the way, Brion is not good. No, don't imagine that. Like, they still have that thing where they just win by
but
not
closer.
being good. Yeah, I know.
Lord Morgan, the bros.
What you need to know is when your entire narratives are all memes. It's not a good sign, is it? Like, there's no meme about them actually being good. Like, all the memes are like, lol, Morgan's just winning games somehow, almost. Like, that's it. That's all you got.
I'm all here for the D plus downfall. This is a team that I love seeing lose. Like, I'm so happy to see the battle narratives like being just torn to shreds, because there's just the narrative around this guy and how he was the reason why this team was so damn good and all that jazz. It's like, I didn't like it, but I think if anything for D plus as well, I do think it's like Showmaker. In regards to his veteran status, I feel like Showmaker, in terms of where his career length was, I feel like he had to fall off way too fast. This is a Showmaker with how good he was. He needed to be great for another couple of years at the minimum. Like, it just went a little bit too fast. And I think for the two so-called rookies with Lucy, because he played summer last year, they have also kind of lost themselves. Lucy was very good in the carry meta, and maybe with Zyra and Brand making like some appearances on the new patch, maybe he can play carries again. But even in this mess, I can also see that Siwu as a player is just playing worse and worse, because he was, to me, the shining light on this team.
Oh, in winter, he was really good, mate. Yeah.
He was like good in winter, good in spring too, I think. And then now it seems like it's getting to him as well in a way where they're at. Because imagine now D+, they qualify to the playoffs, and then they get to play against these teams that are in the top 5. Like, maybe they can beat the Nongshim because they are trash, but it's like it's basically 2 leagues. It's basically a relegation tournament where they have to promote against demons. So I don't envy that position at all. And even though like we have often like we enjoy this format super much because we get to see great League of Legends, I think this also like highlights some of the problems that the teams need to face and deal with. But at the same side, maybe D+ are the ones that get to scrim against the good teams because they don't have to play against them on a weekly basis. So I'm really intrigued. I'm going to reach out to all the homies I know in the LCK and figure out how they do the scheduling, because I think it's very interesting.
No, it's why also, I know what you mean about Showmaker. Like the craziest thing about Showmaker is he was supposed to be like one of those like first ballot Hall of Fame players where they're supposed to, even in these years, like even if the team's bad, he's supposed to sort of prop them up and play to a certain level. He really hasn't done that, unfortunately. Like even though he came in years after like BDD's outlasted him, mate. He really has as an elite player. And by the way, the reason I make that comparison is BDD doesn't have a good team either. They both have like pretty scuffed rosters. It's even quite similar squads. Like they're still trying to work with rookies from their challenger teams. Then they've got like players elsewhere on the team who maybe just aren't that good, you know, and they've just had to like sign that player for bot lane or whatever. So it's even comparable situations. But the difference is, you look at BDD every year, mate, his down years are years ago at this point. It's like half a decade ago. You had that one part in the middle where maybe he dropped off, and now he's back to being like, he's just a generational player. He's fucking mega. Like, if anything, he is the forgotten fucking mid laner in LCK. And he like, so I actually, on that famous thing I brought up last week, he was one of the names people did vote for in that most underrated player in the WhatsApp community or whatever. Even though, as we pointed out, the irony of that is it proved it was Yahoo, because none of you fucking voted for him, even though he's obviously the one who's underrated as fuck, isn't he? But no, I agree. And also, I'll tell you another thing historically that is going to really hurt Showmaker when his career ends now is it was okay, I think, as well, when D Plus wasn't as good, because both Canyon and Showmaker were both there. And because Canyon always has, like in the past at least, been a bit sloppy in regular splits, it made it look like, they're both having issues. You know, maybe like something's changed in the kit, maybe they need better players around them. The problem is, since then, Canyon's gone and had these unbelievable run of like championships, finals. He's probably going to win Worlds this year. Like, that's going to make it so that when a fan looks back in history, they're going to judge that partnership way more in skewing to the side of Canyon. And unfortunately, even though I agree that will probably mean that Showmaker gets underplayed, and he was, by the way, if you go back 4 or 5 years, he was a very good player who actually had a very appropriate name. He would make loads of fucking sick playmaking and loads of like awesome shit with like off-meta champions. The problem is, I did even used to think back then when people used to compare that crop of like Chovy and the others in the fucking, I used to think like, here's the thing, yeah, Chovy had Tarzan early, but you had Canyon the whole time, bro. You had the guy everyone says the GOAT jungler. And that's the problem. When a fanboy, like, remember, the fan watching today probably doesn't even remember Dam 1 in 2020. It's probably too long ago for them. Like, I feel like recency bias is going to like destroy the legacy of Showmaker, because people are just going to think he's a bum now. It doesn't help this format where now you have to play like bad teams and then you're also losing to them. That also fucking makes it look really bad.
Yeah, 100%. He plays his classics. I like it when he does, but I think in terms of playing champions that are current, like if I see a Showmaker Azir, I don't know if I'm going to be able to tolerate it. You know, it's like the last time I really enjoyed Showmaker was even in this Winter Cup when he was like playing Swain, dropping a set. You know, he was playing these unique champions, and maybe this guy just needs to take the Doomby route completely, because in the end, there was even that Yone where he was also playing Pantheon into Yone. Like, he was very dynamic as a player, and I hope that he finds that return to form. But I'm just tying it into all these clips we get out of Showmaker's stream. It just seems like League of Legends is suffering for him as well. Like, loving the game is a very important aspect of it, and that's why, you know, in terms of having like that longevity and making it through the times of having poor teammates, like, this is something that all the great mid laners have done.
Yeah.
Like Showmaker, like we you mentioned BDD, but there's like Rookie is obviously a name. Like Faker even made it through the times of having like shitty teammates and
Absolutely.
just stuck it out, and kept holding out his hand, hoping that things would change. Scout is also one of those players. Obviously, he plays bad now, but some of these players that he was playing on the LNG, it's like you've never heard of them. If I bring them up, it's like he played with Tarzan and they were making strides in the league, but it's a part of the game, and he made the choice to stick on D plus, so he needed to be ready for it, because Canyon wasn't sticking around forever. You know, he didn't want to be in that crummy apartment. You know, he had dreams. He wanted to go to the big city. You know, he wanted to get some trophies. And then when the divorce happened, you know, you needed to be ready to deal with it. You know, you need to be the one cleaning the dishes. And I agree with you that the Showmaker legacy, it's like, it's painful to watch at this point in time, because the way it would play out, I just imagined a little bit different.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about LCK we obviously have to revisit as a narrative is, bro, GenG still is fucking insane. They're just the best team. Like right now, I actually think, unless something drastic happens in the playoffs, this team is either going to win Worlds or it's going to be one of the great like missed opportunities if they don't, because like they had that one loss, and by the way, it was to T1, who's also really good and probably the second best team in the world. Like that's fine to lose that game. It wasn't even like a bad game. They had one loss after they came back for the international break. Ever since then, they still win every series. Even when they've had games against Hanwha Life or T1 that are close, they're just a better team in these games. Like if you go watch that Hanwha Life series, mate, Hanwha Life does everything they can, but you just can't, like, one of the things that's so awesome about this GenG lineup is the question mark was obviously on paper always Duro, right? Because it's like, who is this guy relative to the teammates he's playing with? And if you're someone like him, a bit like we're talking about with the format for like the Hanwha Lives of the world, you don't get a break, mate. You're playing all the best teams in Korea, and because you're playing with like the absolute best teammates on paper, you're expected to play up to that level. But he does. Like, bro, every split he's gotten better. He's really good. If you don't know why, guys, he's the player why all those Western LCK like global people always complain about no one's ever gives player of the match to the supports. It's just carrier basically wins all of them, and then aside from that they just give it to like elder carries and all the other teams, because Duro does have loads of games where he just mega plays, but his problem is he's playing with 4 future Hall of Famers, and some of them are insane now. Like when I watched this Hanwha Life series, mate, this is one of those series where it's like Ruler didn't get the memo that this was supposed to be a down year for him. Ever since the international break onwards, he's been mega, mate. Like this guy just melts people when he was on that Corky. Like he looked unbelievable. Like there's so many team fights he just carries. By the way, as a general aside, it seems like ADC strength's pretty big right now in League. Like a lot of team fights being carried by super sick ADC player. No, GenG, when they actually fight Yamato, this is my dream when I saw this lineup, is whenever you have like on paper a super team, my dream would always be that you just have the best hands in the team fight. Everyone's doing a sick player. This team is really strong, mate. And it's only because the streak ended, people have sort of lost the hype. It's only one series. Aside from that, they still win every time. They can't be beaten, mate.
As this team is ridiculous. It's as if it's just been designed for the year of Fearless, because like the comparison against T1, it's like T1 can keep up when they play their deep comfort picks, but GenG's pool just goes so deep. And while people like to complain about T1's drafting in those series, the reason they can play at that high level all the time and perform and do ridiculous shit like they do with Carrier and Dora and so forth is because they lean into comfort. But when that comfort is against a team that just has such deep pools that they can just go into whatever kind of scenario the game is and still perform at that same level, that is what makes GenG incredible. Like beating them in one game, entirely possible. It's like that game 2 against Hanwha Life. You see, like them getting caught here and there on the side.
Yeah, that was close.
It's like that game. The game 2 was pretty bad against Hanwha Life, but then like GenG can always take a step back, and the deeper you go in a series, the more comfortable they are. It just seems like more and more kind of avenues open up, and I agree with you. It's like I never expected Duro to be this damn good. It's like even if everything went damn right. I was talking to the CEO of GenG, and he was basically telling me that he's giving so much praise to Ruler because he's putting so much effort into making sure that Duro is like up to speed and like understands the lane matchups. Like he is working his ass off to just make sure that he basically just understands what his role is. And Arnold mentioned that this is one of the reasons why Ruler might be like underperforming in the beginning, but now it's like the fruits of their labor. Yeah. It's damn sick. It's like Ruler and Duro is a fantastic bot lane. And
no, they might be the best bot lane in the world. That's fair. It's a fair comparison to make.
It's like Gumayushi Carrier in terms of laning are up there, but it's like Ruler in terms of like the team fight execution.
Absolutely.
Like I think Gumayushi is a fantastic player, but I always prefer the AD that is looking for the way to win the game. Like Gumayushi's role on this team is very specific and the right one, but the people that are doing the killer moves is always Carrier, even Doran, Owner. Like he's not the main character on this team. And for Ruler to step up and to have those moments on the roster with these players is what makes GenG so incredible. It's like the whole change for bringing in Ruler and going away from Paze, even though Paze was better on the year where Ruler was on JDG, was because when you go into an international, when you go into a BO5 series and gun to your head, who do you want to have as your ADC? It's fucking Ruler. And I think this GenG roster, I'm with you. If they don't win Worlds, it would be like, what the hell?
No, that's the other thing as well. Ruler actually looks for real. Like he's almost back to like peak level, mate. He looks so good in some of these fights. Like it's that thing where I've always thought this about ADC. To me, ADC on paper, if you do it right, should be like the second best role in the game after mid lane. But it all depends on like so much depends on like your team setup. How do they play around you? Do they stall properly? Do they use their fucking ults? Do they heal? Do they zone? If they don't do these things, you look shit. Obviously, you get caught and you just blown up immediately. Mate, he does the things in the fights. It's the same reason why I have such a hard time quitting on Jakob when I watch him in the LPL. When these guys are at their peak, I always thought the most satisfying thing you see in a fight is when they're on the outskirts of the fight because they're trying to like play back, and some player, like could be like the jungler of the other team, tries to go really deep to catch them, and then realizes like, oh shit, I haven't got any backup, and they have to back off, and you just see them get melted by these ADCs, mate. Like people like Ruler, once they step forwards, mate, they are just doing every auto attack perfectly. It's unbelievable, like the damage DPS they put out. It's crazy, bro. Like this guy, it's like I say, and this is another thing that's quite cool about players like this is, even though, yes, absolutely, this last year for Ruler was crap, and in fact, the beginning of this year was pretty sus, mate. Like, I would absolutely say if we did like a GenG review of the first split, you're one of the reasons they didn't win, Ruler. Yeah, you weren't up to snuff. You actually looking a bit average, even going towards MSI. But the point is, like, when you have an all-time great player like that, you're just hoping that it's still in there somewhere. And mate, they've activated him now. The sleeper's awoken. He's fucking dope. Like, he's back to being one of the absolute best players in the whole world at his position. He's fucking sick. And those international competitions were fantastic too. So, no, I mean, I think that GenG is still a really fun team to watch as well. That's the other thing. This is how I know if you're a hater, right? Because I will totally say I understand why last year's GenG, the one that won the MSI with Lehens, I understand why a casual wouldn't like that Yamato. That team is a little bit more like the fucking, like think about if you watch MMA, this fight that just happened with Hamzat Chimaev, or if you watch back in the day, Habib, right? People got hyped about Habib at the end of his career because his narrative was cool. As a fighter, that's exactly the style casuals hate, where you just hold someone down and they can't get up. And by the way, if you appreciate grappling, that's amazing what you're doing. In the same way as last year's GenG, the way they would play with the side lanes and the minions, and that was genius, bro. If you understand high-level League of Legends, it's really satisfying intellectually, but it's not that exciting because it looks to the casual like, well, there's not even any fights. They're just having to go and clear a wave. It's like, yeah, but that's actually the genius of what they've done. They didn't have to fight to win. This year's GenG, bro, is everything a casual fan could want. This is like some Max Holloway point at the center of the fucking ground. Like I said last week, bro, the team, I saw a fan made a comment and they nailed it. That series last week of T1 versus GenG, where it was an epic, like they were fighting to the death from minute one. Some fans said it, an awesome comment. They said it's like they just streamed a scrim for the fans or something. It had that vibe. It's like they were just fucking, everyone was just trying to get like 8 kills 2 minutes into the game or something crazy. So no, but this team also just fucking, it's a really exciting style of play too, mate. Like they will just straight up stand toe to toe with anyone and just fight them. It's fucking awesome. I also think it's just awesome to watch. I really enjoy watching them win.
I love like to connect that to where we are meta wise and where Fearless has landed. It's because now it's like where the meta is, it's like it's very difficult to keep up in the game if you just decide to give up everything. There's just too much to take, whether it's dragons, tier 2s, jungle camps, Atakan, grubs. It's like the game is so damn busy that if at any point in time you kind of stop fighting back and wait for certain scenarios, in a lot of cases you're going to be in draft cases where that's very, very dangerous to do. It's like, sure, IG got away with it today against Bilibili specifically, but that's not the norm. And GenG, T1, they're willing to swing hands and they are always there to fight on the objectives. And I think in terms of the viewership product, I think for the average viewer, I think this is like the game has landed in a very, very good spot. And for GenG to be able to really, really dip in and out of so many different styles is why even though the year isn't finished, it's like I am putting them in the conversation of maybe like one of the greatest teams of all time. Because all other teams were specialists is one thing, and GenG can do so much. Like I look at a player like Chovy, or a player like Keen, a player like Canyon. I can't recognize truly what their flaw is. Like Keen is just great at everything. It's like, oh, he's playing Gwen, oh, he's gonna carry. Or he plays Sion, oh, he's gonna carry. He's gonna play Kisanta, it's King Santa. It's like this. What is the flaw here? What is the flaw? And in a world where this team weren't in Fearless, they would be so damn good at playing like the defensive style and just farming out and just poking you out. They would do that every game, and they would comes at you over and over again. So I think this would even continue in a world where it's not Fearless. So I'm so damn impressed every time I watch them play, because it seems like anything that anyone takes from them are things that they give away, and it never seems to affect them. Because we talked about extensively how much it was, of course, affecting How Alive, the fact that they got reverse swept. But the fact that GenG did that while giving up Yone, giving up Silas angles, and still just reverse swept and just did it in a cool way. Like they have been in those game fives many, many times, and I never lost faith in the idea of them executing there. So they just have it all.
Yeah, two things. One, it even now looks better that they're the dominant team and might win everything. That even their winter split where they were worse, they were one game from winning it. They were in the final, they lost 3-2. Like, that doesn't even look that bad in hindsight. Bear in mind, they weren't even fully powered up. And then, yeah, I also agree on the Keen angle. The reason why people like Monty, I told you, would be loving this era when Keen's just fucking sick, is because this is why he actually, if people think he overrated him, rated that player the highest it's possible to rate him. Because, bro, Zeus has this as well, but the difference is Zeus has looked way worse doing it in Handball Life. Keen really has the complete package as a top laner, mate. He can just put, like, he can do that thing where if you leave some shit open, this is why in Fearless they're just unbeatable. Like, the Kim guy is the easiest job in the world as far as I can tell in terms of drafting for this fucking squad. Because if you actually have to draft like a tank or he's awesome at that. He will allow Ruler and Chovy to carry the game. But if you ever leave anything OP open, he'll also fucking murder a game too on some really strong pick. Like, this guy, he really, as long as you don't make him have to be like the carry of the team, he's so fucking OP, mate. I don't think, like, Zeus had the potential to do this and he was in winter, but he just doesn't. I know what you mean. In Handball Life, it's like they've never fully integrated him after the spring onwards, mate. Like, he's still really good, I can tell. Handball Life in theory can be good, but the two of them aren't there at the same time. I'll tell you what, let's spin it a little bit in a conversation about T1, because you brought up a point earlier that I think is always missed, right? I've learned a long time ago, Yamato, it's not, all right, here's the thing. In a way, T1 fans aren't wrong. They like T1 for the wrong reasons, which is fine. You can have your own reasons. But, like, for example, it's why people like Dom have done so many little clips where they're sort of like, I actually really like the best, of T1, or when they play an awesome game or a clutch game. But the real problem that a lot of us don't like is like the average game that's in between, the filler game. That's the one that shows like, oh, this is, put it this way, whenever you do that thing of like, just, the one, ZOFGK was the greatest lineup of all time. It's like, where that will fall apart is if you just watch random games in the regular season. Like, the other all-time great teams are insanely dominant and then they win worlds, This team has, like, games that look average. You still see it now, and this is what I wanted to bring up, is one of the number one complaints, Yamato, they even complained about this in the T1 win over Handball Life the other day, is the T1 fans always complain about the drafting of T1. And I want to sit them down and go, did you really just learn nothing for the last 3 years? The entire strength of T1, as far as I can tell, is that they don't just play the meta because they can't. It's actually, what's amazing is that they get all these championships and wins and how close they are to the best team in the world, doing things like having to intentionally opt into what on the meta are weaker picks, but work for them, or they know how to use in, like, to get a skirmish off or to take a fucking objective. And so on paper, I'm sorry, they're going to lose draft. Like, they have to. It's almost like you were saying about it. It's almost like something they opt into, because they will choose the comfort pick over like this is the best support pick, for example. Like, they'll choose the shit they want to play with. And so I feel like if T1 fans are complaining about that, it's like, I feel like you're missing the game plan. That's actually sort of a feature, not a bug for T1. Like, look at me, if they had GenG's roster, I'm pretty sure they'd play all the meta picks too. But like, I bet some of these meta drafts, here's the problem. I agree with the T1 staff on this one, Yamato. I'd rather like lose draft but have a chance to do something in the game than win it with the LSs of the world, but then have to go into the game and get my fucking head smashed in, and then all the players get flamed. Like, I think I agree with their drafting strategy generally. I think they do pick some like interesting angles that other people wouldn't, because they have to. I feel like they have to, mate.
I think T1, it's very easy to be like, oh, T1 up there, second best team in the world, fantastic. I still think with how this year has played out and where they started and where they were, I do think that in terms of getting the most out of their roster, it's incredible. It's incredible, simply incredible.
Yes.
It's like what they've done with Doran, even going
so
far.
For real, you could absolutely, this isn't a meme, you could say coaching staff for T1's done one of the better jobs this year. They're pretty fucking good, mate.
it's an incredible job of getting so much out of it, which is so easy to forget. It's like this team had they had the issues with the ADC, with their subbing out, and
Yep.
they were underperforming. Dorian was getting solo kill on the daily, and they stuck to their guns. And I think having the having the guts to just stick to an idea and holding on to it and having it pay off when every metric that you have from scrims and what other teams are playing is pointing you in a different direction and still holding tight. Like we were all calling for Doran to just play tanks and shut up and be in the corner of the game, and eventually became such an integral part of the game. And I think that to me still, like, sure, Owner Carrier, some of the best players ever to play in their role for sure. Faker's form, I think still to this day, there's like mechanical things that happen. He gets caught, he dies on the mid wave. There's still things that are questionable, but they've managed to make it look so damn great still with the potential flaws that some of these players would have in maybe different scenarios. So for me, I think this team has done such a great job of getting the most out of it. And I think the core idea, what they did at MSI, EWC, what they did to even beat How Alive, they locked in the champions that allowed them to operate at such a high level. And, you know, not everyone can be like an Ilya Tupuria that just fucking knows how to do everything, grapple, and has at least strength in their hands and whatever. You know, it just has all the range. It's like some MMA fighters are just sticking to what they do and they do it well. And you don't expect, you know, Conor McGregor to choke somebody out. You know, it just doesn't exist. You need to stick to what you know. And I think T1 do that phenomenally well. They found the identity, they're sticking to it, and that's why they're the second best. If they would do all these things that people ask for, like draft better or whatever, they wouldn't be. They really wouldn't be.
Oh no. I agree with you, because the real problem is people, T1 fans, they don't realize it, but they're being a bit spoiled and entitled when they say all of this. Because what they're really doing, and this is the problem, is they're acting like because their team is in position to beat the best team or to be the best team, they just should be the best team. And there's just no reason right now why T1 should be the best team. They shouldn't. I'm sorry. Like, one, GenG is just better than them still. Secondly, in theory, by the time Worlds comes, maybe anyone's legend will be again like they were by the end of EWC. Like, that's totally plausible. By the way, if the year ends and T1 at the end of Worlds is the third best team of the year, then I will again just reiterate what an awesome job by the coaching staff. Like, no, I don't even know T1 fans at the beginning of the year, even the ones with the craziest copium ever for Doran, never really thought they'd be like winning a chance to win LCK, chance to win MSI. Maybe they can even do a run at Worlds themselves again. Again, put them in a limited meta where other people choke and they get it to get. Maybe they can do another. Maybe they'll be in the semis this year. Like, that's it. Like, that actually seems plausible. So I think if you're a T1 fan, you have to learn, just like G2 fans, it's not your turn every year. And I'm sorry, even though you have Faker, he isn't Faker from 7 years ago. He's not going to just 1v9 the game. And spoiler, right now, you've all talked so much shit on Chovy that, like, guess what? Be careful what you wish for. You know how you were all like, Chovy wasn't good. He doesn't carry the game fight he does now, motherfucker. That's what he heard you. And he's fucking, now he actually is completely cracked out. At the moment, like, unless he bombs Worlds, like, it's just his era, mate. It's just not your time to win. Sorry. It's still good to have a good team. Here's the thing. Here's what you should do if you're a T1 fan. I'm being serious. Just be glad you have a chance. Be glad you're in the games. Be glad that you. Sometimes they can beat a GenG, or they can take down anyone's legend, or they can force an awesome game 3. Like, that's it's still something to take comfort in there. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. We don't have to be the number one team, or everyone has to be fired or flamed and stuff. That's why I have so little sympathy now for the fans with all the, like, trucks and stuff. I could vaguely understand, like, the drama around the off season, and maybe they thought, oh, what the hell? Like, we lost Zeus and now we don't even get to see Guma play. I get that as a fan. What I don't get is, like I said last week, I don't get being, like, petulant about a loss to GenG like that, man. Like, that's a totally fine loss. Like, you know what? That's not the shit where, like, that's like being, like, the second best team in Serie A. Like, that's not when you have all the ultras come and tell all the people, we'll have the mafia kill you if you don't win the league. Like, you're the second best. You do that when you're, like, fucking Juventus and you're, like, ninth or something, man. That's when I get worried. That's when I might have the ultras come and tell them, again, you will sleep with the fishes or whatever the fuck. Like, this isn't time to panic if you're T1. And then finally, I'll just throw this out there. Here's the little actual, like, life beacon if you're a T1 fan. Surely after seeing MSI, you should say, all I need to do is enter Worlds with a chance, because you know that in those tournaments, that's where the T1 coaching staff shine the most. Like, the amount of times they have gotten gold out of, like, a limited meta at an international tournament. Mate, if anything, they did it at the last two Worlds as a massive underdog. This time they could come in as the second or third best team in the world. And if they figure out the meta, maybe there even is a chance to win. As I said last episode, it's the 1 year I'm actually going to say T1 has a chance to win Worlds because I don't need a miracle globe. I can already see it. They're already right there. And by the way, GenG falls off at all, you'll be the trophy could even be yours. So I think if you're a T1 fan, don't fucking go overboard. I know that's kind of what you do as a T1 fan, but don't just chill out, just pull back a little bit. It's all fine. There's no fire anywhere. It's all fine, mate.
I think context is so important that I would go so far that this year has been like through the controversy and the issues that they need to face with the roster swap. Like in comparison to last year, like last year you come off of a Worlds win, you retain your roster while everybody else makes changes around you. It's like that year was rough. Like that was a rough year. It's like you barely qualified the World Championship, and that's where you landed. And like in terms of outside of like winning the World Championships, of course, is a massive feat and is amazing in the way they did it. It's like looking at that year and the context of them being the roster that won Worlds and retained itself. That was like a rough year leading up to that. And now the circumstances are different, so the context is different. If they manage to win Worlds this year, I think this would outweigh like all of the other ones in terms of like how impressive it is, because now you have the GenG super roster, How Alive super roster. Sure, LPL's in shambles, but I'm sure they're gonna squeeze out a couple of teams that are gonna be competitive because AO showed that they could. So if they manage to do it this year, like for me, this outweighs the other ones by far, because the context for me is super important and matters.
Should we do it? Should we talk about the fucking LTA? Because you are right. We did technically just forget it even existed. Now, deservedly so. There problem really is on paper until, as we saw this week, until this week, there wasn't any real matchups to watch. Like, I've watched Team Liquid play a bunch of series now, and then it's like, fuck, they're way off the pace. I watched 100 Thieves, like, I keep looking at the roster, like, they should be able to get some upset wins. They can't get fucking anything. But this series, this Cloud9 one, is fucking insane, because I do still think Cloud9 has some really strong players. I actually think, in general, their roster's quite, even though people flamed it when it was composed, because it lacked, like, the fucking the English shot caller and all that, actually, it's sort of a canny squad. Like, I actually think they generally play pretty well. This Shopify Rebellion series, I mean, it's funny because they haven't been able to capture, as I say, many narratives in the LTA, but actually, in some ways, Parler Fox is carrying the fucking narratives of the LTA, bro, because this is almost like WWE. Think about the timing of when he set up this narrative of like, everyone's flaming me, shit, I can't win, I'm shit. And so then at the time, because he was even still losing, every fucking core stream has been like, fuck you, Parler Fox, because they just played into it. And now he's actually like, he's actually low key like turning it around. He's like set us up. The rope dope was there the whole time, apparently. This series is mental, bro. Like, I don't know what to make of this. Come on, give me some thoughts on this Shopify epic win. It was 5 as well, fucking hell.
Unbelievable series. It's like the game one, I thought Shopify Rebellion is not offering anything, because that game one was just 28 minutes, boom. They didn't even do anything proactive, nothing. Didn't choose any fight, didn't find any angle. Game two, the same way. C9 gave it away on an Atakan play. It's always the damn fucking Atakan. Like, and people learn to pull it towards one side and then turn through the chokes that are being created by the damn walls. Can someone go into practice tool and use the fact that Riot allowed you to put 10 players in there, do a 1 hour session, and then boom, you take, we retake, you take, retake, and then boom, you clocked it. You've done it. It's a part of your system and DNA.
We didn't go into it, but by the way, the LPL might be the worst region ever at Artigan. They just fucking throw that shit all day long, don't they? It's crazy, mate. I know what you mean.
So they lose the game here. The second one, which should have been an easy win for C9 based on what they showed and with the game position and so forth. And then I think that C9 at somewhere, like in terms of where they were drafting, it's like Shopify Rebellions. If there's anything that stands out, I do think that their bot lane is pretty damn decent.
Bvog is legit, isn't he? And that was an interesting pickup, because Seos obviously is not a player you would associate with it. You would think that player might struggle. A lot of the good players that have come from South America haven't been good, mate. This guy's killing it.
Seos has just been like, he has actually like caught up to what the LTA support meta game is. Because this was always like the main thing that was a problem for all LTA supports, was that there was core JJ and nobody else. Busio needed the Mythy stimmy to figure it out. Mythy came into the team, and then it was like, Busio, you just need to base and be here. You need to keep track of the tempo of the game, and then opportunities will open up for you. And Seos, over time, he didn't keep up with the game. He was doing this thing where he shows on the wave, and he still has some of that, but you can clearly see that he is kind of adjusting to the rhythm and the flow of the game in terms of defending, doing proactive plays. So the growth of this guy just being in an environment where the support level is higher is clearly like working out for the guy. So that's super, super cool. I didn't think that Palafox played so well, you know.
He didn't, but just winning the game makes the narrative seem real. I agree. He got a bit carried, mate. Come on, let's be real. He did.
The boy definitely did get carried. It's like the game 3, I thought that out of draft C9, like with the Ziggs lock-in, I think they just put Vulcan in weird spots in terms of the support pool. Because I think that C9, while their solo laners are great, I think their solo laners are like in the conversation of being just best in the league against, of course, Quad and Whippo as their main competitors. I do think that the champion pool of C9's bot lane is the one that they might need to prioritize earlier in drafts, because if they end up on like Ziggs Poppy bot against a Sivir, I think that's a ticking time bomb that is going to be very, very tough to deal with. But even in that game, it's like how Shopify Rebellion's approach fights is so mindless, because they always isolate their ADC. He never connects to scenarios, and then they fights 3v4. But somehow Shopify Rebellions, they win those fights because C9 just tend to break their hands. I don't know, as they lost that game too, something kind of switched in terms of how C9 played, because it seemed like they didn't realize there was a possibility for them to even lose. Because I think for everyone it was inconceivable. For C9 it was inconceivable too. So while they were playing that game 5, when I see Thanatos get solo killed by Fudge, at this point in time, I'm like, it's over. Yeah, Fudge is solo. Ibrahim is solo killing Thanatos. The MVP candidate Thanatos is getting solo killed in Nar Aatrox matchup. He came out of Korea. He played this a million times in solo queue already, this matchup. And he gets solo killed in that matchup. I was like, oh, damn. C9, you know, we heard the conversation. Dom also mentioned it, where they went to the EWC, and the fact that they, like, them having lack of sleep or them being, like, in trouble is something that hurts their performance super, super much. C9 is one of those teams I need to put them in the fragile box. This is a fragile team. Very, very fragile team. And I think if you look at the leadership, so-called leadership in the team, you have Sven. I think he's performing in those big games. I think FlyQuest City's last split was a really big one. But Blabber is the one that tends to just fold completely under that pressure. And knowing how good he's been, like he's won a lot of splits. But usually those splits were won when they were easy to win. Like when there was resistance, he was the one that fell apart. I remember the series against NRG when they lost, which was crazy. Even here, the FlyQuest is like the Javan one is a classic now for Blabber at this point in time. And I don't know how C9 is going to work this out. It's like this is a very, very tough thing to teach, because this has been Blabber's like root problem for a very long time. I can accept it from Thanatos or Loki, because they're going through things for the first time. But Blabber, what on earth is Blabber doing?
Oh, mate, let's get into this, because one thing I have to say about Blabber that I find really underwhelming is he is supposed to be in the category with Double If, Jojo. These are supposed to be the like generational NA player. I would even say, if you want to keep going, Zion Spartan, maybe. I'm actually not sure, because I think Smithy technically is like Philippines. So I don't know if he's counted as NA player. Smithy can go in there, Meteos. They've had some players that were truly generational, to Afro Moo. These players have been some of the absolute best. But here's the one problem I have with Blabber's game, mate. It got to a point of development and it never went past that. Like, think about how many of the really great junglers who are veterans in every other region do the other thing. They do that flip over where they stop being the hands jungler, they become the brain jungler, and they become like a Peanut, etc. And their whole career eventually just becomes, like Smithy did this, eventually their career becomes like, I'm not about hands anymore. Now I'm just the smartest player at my position. Like, I know, I've seen everything, I've been with every type of teammate, I can fill in the gaps for people. Baba's never made that transformation, mate. He's still the guy where it's like, hey, I'm going to pop off and fucking kill loads of people and gank everyone. And it's like, that's good. But one, he never sort of like rounded out his game a bit. And actually, I agree with you. A sad thing is, anytime there's competition, and in his case, mate, even if it wasn't for Shopify, as long as Inspired's there, he has all your weaknesses as his strengths, mate. He's got you covered. I know what you mean. He's always the guy that I actually expect to be in at least one game of the BO5 ability. He's just going to have that one game where he goes a bit too deep, or he just fucking misjudges what to do in like a fucking pathing. Like, it's sad, because I do think like the talent deserves that hype of like generational play. player. There's a reason he was MVP many times in the league. You go look at some regular splits, he just ran them, mate. In some ways, I'd even compare it. He's like a Canavi of fucking LCS. He's a monster, mate. He can carry the game. But the reason I also draw the Canavi comparisons, I've also seen Canavi have some criminal fucking games where he just ints his tits off or just goes way too deep. Like, it's kind of sad because, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what, and I can't even say it's, like, he's had a lot of different good coaches too, Blabber, mate. Like, some of it's got to be on him. You know what I mean? Some people just don't always make the full transition.
Oh, it's like the North American Razork. Like, these two guys, they're just stuck in high school, you know, where they were the quarterback, the cheerleaders were cheering for them, and now they're in the basement, you know, like they're just trying to do the same thing. It's like, you need to grow, you need to get better somehow.
It's where you're making it sound like they're like, you know, the classic role, that one of the first roles ever that Matthew McConaughey played on screen was in the classic 70s film, you know, the one called Dazed and Confused, where it's like the one where it's this famous film where they're all at high school in it. It's a coming of age film. And in it, they cast Matthew McConaughey. It's like, he was just supposed to be like, you know, a side character in this, but he was so iconic for this role he played, because it was where he basically pioneered that style of, like, you know, Southern swag, you know, where he's sort of like too cool for school. Well, in it, the character they make him play is the character we've all met in real life, which is the guy where you were sort of a cool guy in high school, but then you never continued on. You never went on and then just got a job and a family. You're still at all the same parties where, like, and so the famous line he says in this movie, Yamato, is he goes, "High school girls, I get older, they stay the same age." Because he's that, like, loser guy with the car who's just picking up all the 18-year-old girls. I know what you mean. That's what Blabber and Razork are like. They're still like, "Hey, baby, want to see this Lee Sin gank?" And it's like, mate, you're at the point in your career where you're supposed to be a fucking Sejuani player pulling out an Excel sheet, like, all the mathematics make this is the plus negative. You're supposed to be the nerd at that point. You know what I mean? Where's the nerd shit? Bring it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's like, even now, it's like that. It's like the sweet spot in between. There should be like a golden era of your career, you know, where you're capable of doing both. You know, that's supposed to be the golden sweet spot. Because now we have a jungle like Inspired. It's like, he's so well-rounded. It's like, globally, we have so many well-rounded junglers too. And at some point in time, I don't think that they sit down there and speak with Blabber and he doesn't know the mistakes that he's making. I think that's something that is plain and easy. I think it's just I think the same thing for Razork. I think it's just a question of managing and actually, you know, taking care of your nerve, because it's so common that when people are under pressure and they are stressed or maybe even anxious, they resort back to almost their childlike self. You know, what brought them to the point where they're at, and as you try to build like new habits and new ideas, you're capable of like leaning into them and trying to enact them in a maybe stress-free environment. But then when push comes to shove, people always and very, very often revert back to that. It's like, what are you reverting back to? That's really what defines you. Because I can't help but think that some of these series that we've watched, especially this one, that I don't think Shopify Rebellion is a better team than C9. They just are just mentally stronger on the day. And that can happen again, definitely. Like, I'm worried about C9 where they are mentally to close out the series, because now it's going to get even worse. They're going to have to play series where there's no cushion to fall on. Like, in a world where they don't make top three and don't make the regional cross regional championship, that would be even worse than last year. And I didn't think they could top that. I didn't think that would be possible at all. So for me, it's like managing your nerve in those moments. I can't believe nobody, like he has probably had 50 people that he trusts and believes in telling him, it's like, this is the mistakes that you're doing. You're overreaching here. You could just take the safe route out. I'm sure he will reach the same conclusion. I think it's just a question of like being still while, you know, the pressure is on, and he just doesn't seem to manage to be able to do that.
Also, in the last split, the best matches were C9 versus FlyQuest, and now we're only going to get at most one of those. Maybe we'll get one if C9 makes the run. But by the way, that's not even certain. Let's see him play Shopify again. But I also think that sucks. Here's what I think sucks is, now I think FlyQuest just easily goes to the finals, mate. They're not going to have these problems against Shopify Rebellion. Quad's going to murder Parler Fox. Like, there's no universe. Like, Inspired's going to fucking tool the whole Shopify squad. Like, come on, mate. This is just, the problem is right now, my hope was C9, at least head to head, has a really good matchup with FlyQuest. This just looks like FlyQuest is just going to walk the league. You know what I mean? I know what you mean, though. The real problem now for your C9 is you should be thinking about last year. Last year, you also would have thought, oh, it doesn't matter if we can't beat like Team Liquid or fucking FlyQuest. It's okay, we'll still go to Worlds. Like, yeah, remember that 100 Thieves series? Like, that for real probably cost Jojo on his like North American career. Like, if like that series, if they win it, they probably everything's fine. You go to Worlds, you get over the issues, maybe you have a glow up, but you didn't get the chance. So, no, you have to actually now really think, like, the obvious one immediately, mate, is Team Liquid has looked really bad, but all you need is them to wake up and have the right day, mate, and you're out in fourth. That's going to be brutal. That can happen. Like, you know, brain, you say no because you watch Team Liquid play. They get murked too easily, man. They're not very good. But like I say, it's why actually I understand why Monty gets so triggered that casual fans go on and on about the fact that like double a limb's unfair because the guy from the upper bracket who wins the upper bracket still has one life in the final. And it's like, no, because what you're missing is what you gain by going through the upper bracket is you don't just get like the extra match in the lower bracket where if you're unlucky and that guy has his game of his life, you just get knocked out. You're just out the tournament. Like, you just get to sit in the final and wait. And yeah, at that point, you could then lose one match. But I'd rather not play extra games and give people a chance to beat me because, like I say, that lower bracket match, there's also, think of the pressure if you're C9 and you play that lower bracket match against TL in like 2 weeks or whatever. Like, you're going to be like fucking shitting yourself because they don't have much to play for, mate. They've been kind of bad this split. Your whole, again, people might get fired over this if you lose this summer split. Like, the idea you don't even go to Worlds, like, because I agree. The problem is EWC isn't as big as MSI anyway, and it feels like you didn't get there because you got stuck in the plane. like, remember, and by the way, right at the time when everyone was getting ready to clown on EU that like NA beats EU every time, and what happened? Yeah, exactly. Little MCOY bitch. What up now?
You know, something to loop the audience in on is it's like in teams you kind of apply psychological band-aids that get you through like tough losses. It's like
Yes.
you go through like the Hanwha Life angle. I think is a perfect example because I think as the regular split in winter was not the greatest, they still were up there, but they lost series against GenG
Yeah.
and so forth. They then went through playoffs, winning every game 5 in a way that was extremely close. But they made it through, which was very impressive. And then that moment, in those moments, you go through the spring split and you're dropping series, you can kind of tell yourself, it's no problem. In the BO5s, we are sharp. This is our thing. This is who we are. And then you can brush it off. It's like some of the mistakes that happen, they don't tilt you as much. They don't pain you as much because you're going through that motion and you have that thought process. It's like, oh, my team, we're going to figure this out when the time comes, right? And then that psychological band-aid kind of keeps you intact until the moment where you reach the point where it's shattered because of a reverse sweep. Because then the truth of all these wounds that you have and the flaws that you have becomes so much more in your face. And then you have to face them while you've brushed them aside by telling yourself that, oh, when the best of 5 come, then we're going to have no problem. And I think the same thing from C9 side. I don't know how the scrims were, how the practice was, but I think they almost assumed that they are going to be in that match against FlyQuest again for the longest time, and that everything in between the EWC and so forth wasn't super relevant. They could brush it aside. But sometimes if you are wrapping things in these psychological band-aids, eventually you're going to reach moments where you have to face the truth and the music. And I think the same way how our life shattered, that game too as well, C9 looked really different after that game. They didn't look same at all. They weren't pulling the trigger. They weren't like loose and they weren't trusting their own ability. They were questioning like the way they played. Like there were so many moments where I'm like, what are they doing? They're just breaking their own hands. This is not who they are. I think the idea of losing out and not making it, you need to have way more closer proximity to that pressure in everything that you do. But I understand the problem of doing and recreating that as a coach because the actual format doesn't give you any resistance. The format doesn't give you resistance. Scrims don't give you resistance. How do you convince your players that you need to act and push with a extreme high level of pressure? Because when it comes, the only way to be ready for it is to live it every day.
Oh, absolutely. I know what you mean as well. Like, it's actually one of the most underrated aspects, I think, of coaching, Yamato, is every fan tunnels on things like, did you win the match? How did a specific player play? And what was the draft like? But I think one of the most underrated aspects, as you're basically describing here, is it's actually how you like psychologically frame what is happening after the fact to the player. Because that's why, I'll give you an example. So many fans will have seen, it's actually even an NA classic, by the way. They'll have seen those videos that like a lot of the Western teams do, where it's like after you get eliminated from Worlds or you lose like a big match or something, they'll do that one where it's like the documentary crew in the VOD review room films the coach talking to the players. And it's a classic thing. You'll have said it yourself, I've no doubt. The classic thing that the coach will say something like after a big loss where it's really close and you lose, he actually often in that moment won't actually bring up all the flaws in the game and be like, oh, if we'd have just, if you had to smited earlier, or he just, because he knows in that moment, by the way, the game's already gone, you've lost. And actually, in theory, if I say the wrong thing, if I poke at the wrong hole, that could like have a massive effect on that guy's confidence. It might actually take away all the positives of the match. And so it's why even though as a fan, you hate to hear the coach do that thing where they go, guys, I know we lost, but I'm proud of you. Because as a fan, you're like, oh, they're all losers. They're all fine accepting losses. And what you don't realize is actually, I know what you mean. That's where that coach is trying to like create a scenario where you don't feel like it's the end of the world to like be in a close game and make the wrong decision. You have the confidence to make that decision or go for that play. So I know what you mean. Actually, psychological framing is underrated, I think, mate. I think a lot of the people don't realise it's actually one of the reasons why I actually, for fucked up reasons, wanted my boy LS to be a real coach for like 3 years in the LCS. Because, mate, he would have very quickly learned the greatest draft in the world, mate, doesn't win you the game if the players don't like have the right like fucking mental state, if they don't know like how to play against a team that in theory is better than them, or a team that like you say last time they beat you, they gave you like a psychological wound that the second you get into that point in the game where it goes similarly. By the way, this will tie into Fnatic versus G2 later. You get to that point in the game where it's your team's fragile. If they get broken, then they lose. No, I think that's actually underrated. It's why the problem is, in a way, people do get it, but they just think that's what the psychologist does or the sports psychologist. They think the performance coach just does that, and every time he can make it work. But I just think it's the most complicated area, Yamato. It's really difficult to do this kind of like, because essentially you're trying to coach someone's mind at this point, right?
It's like reading the room. It's just knowing where your players are and how much you can get out of them, how much you need to concede to make them comfortable to perform. Like basically making judgment calls on who you're going to give a greater responsibility. Like I remember there was like a series we played against G2 in the finals with Splice. The first initial opening game, we played Shen and we had Shen top, and I noticed that the enemy top laner was really, really like not performing well. It was expected at the time. I noticed the enemy top laner wasn't performing well, and our bot lane couldn't execute the bottom dives together with that jungler. So from that point, I just took Wunder aside because I knew I could be honest with him, and I said, like, if we're going to win the series, it needs to be through you. So we have to rethink our whole strategy. And then it's like I brought him in the loop of my plan, and then I presented it to the guys in a way that they wouldn't feel like we are like changing the focus so much, because I knew that what I said to Wunder is not something that the rest of the team should be hearing or would be ready to hear in that moment. Yeah. So it's in that moment, it's just a question of like how I framed it. It's like I needed to put Wunder on my side, and then I needed to reshift it because I knew that the enemy top lane was the flaw, and we needed to attack it harder. We didn't win the series; we won one game, but those are the things that you're juggling with. Those are the things that you are kind of fighting against. There's also one moment in time, like just as another example, there was that we lost a series against Splice with Vitality for the third place match, and in that moment, it's like I wanted to push away from like basically targeting enemy mid lane pool because we were like picking Talia. And in that moment, Jizuki as a player didn't have respect for like what Niski did, and he felt like the flaws in the game were tied to different things. And in that moment, I made the decision. It's like either I force my hand here, or I'm going to just lean into what he wants and what my jungler wanted at the time, because I wanted to ban Ivan and they were afraid of Kha'Zix. And it's one of those things that weigh heavy on my mind because I knew I had the better approach, but I chose in that moment to trust my players to put them in a framing that I am with them coming into the game instead of making that friction coming into that moment. And then later on that same year, the lesson from that was something that I could always utilize as a spear, because as things proceeded, they also trusted me more coming out of that. So it's just a question of frame, because everything that you go through can be good. And in those best of fives, you kind of have to read the energy in the room and understand where you're going and what you need to shift in order to actually have a chance. Because sometimes a loss or a circumstance can put people in the wrong zone completely. And you need to manage 5 players while doing so.
Right, okay, I'll tell you one thing I actually did want to bring up that I forgot about in the C9 series is I'll actually give you an example of where players say things. And the problem is if the fan doesn't see it, you just think they're all fucking gassing their teammates. Way back, if people don't know B-Boy, he's been, basically in English we say, he's been around the houses, mate. He's been everywhere. He played in the LPL a million years ago. Then he even he was on Misfits. I remember doing shows with actually my boy Febevan, the old Dutch mid laner, when he played on that squad with him. It's actually, I think, when they even had Razork in the team, I think, if I'm thinking of the right year. And at the time, he actually told me on all his shows that B-Boy's really good, mate. He actually said, this guy, for real, I'm not joking, is like one of the best mechanical players I've ever played with. And if you see him in scrims, he's unbelievable. But at the time, because first of all, it was this is a really early Korean import to the LEC, and back then that just wasn't a thing. Remember, even Gorilla failed, for fuck's sake, back in the day. So at the time, people perceived Europe as like, we don't do Korean imports. By the way, that's aged quite poorly now. Think of people like Malrang, Jun. We've had loads at this point in time that have been pretty good. Also, at the time, that Misfits roster was just kind of a scuffed roster. It just wasn't very good. So a lot of people didn't believe it. And in fact, B-Boy after that had to go for real in the hard part of the circuit, mate. He was just playing off in like fucking South American teams. Not even always like CB LOL level. Like he was in some dodgy ass teams, mate. He was in the teams that were just the playing teams where you click on the names and you go, B-Boy's playing for them. What the fuck? A bit like when you see Summit, like, what? He's playing on an R7. Like, what? You just think, oh, what's going on with your career? But the sad thing is, when I watch him play now in the Shopify Rebellion, mate, he is the best player in their team. He is. And I get why Feberman now, like 7 years ago, so I hyped this guy. Like, mate, his hands are real. Like, he's got some skills, this guy. It's kind of a shrewd pickup by the team, yeah.
Super legit. I thought he was amazing. That Sivir Lucian performance was tremendous. It's like I think that he carried the game. It's like it's like how we measure ADCs. It's like how impactful is it when they finish items? And now it's like in the Shopify Rebellion games, it's like I'm keeping track of him hitting items, because there's a lot of ADCs that just fall flat. It's like they reach items and then they just die the moment the enemy team realizes they're a threat, and they just kind of fold, use a flash bad or whatever. But B-Boy is carrying games. I did think that Fudge also looks better and better. Like his tank play as well kind of complements that. I think Seals also works super well. They actually have like, ways to contest bot lane and play through bot lane with contracts. So they kind of have like this identity that works out playing around an ADC that is capable of performing. And I don't think that this team works without an ADC that is performing at this high level. Like if they don't have that ADC that performs, then you have to go to the next guy. And Fudge is not a good carry player. And Palafox, I'm going to do the thing that he doesn't want to hear, but he's not playing good. Like the opening game, he's just dry, getting solo killed by an Aussie level 4, which is like a cardinal sin in a matchup that you must have played 1,000 times minimum at this point. Talia Azir, come on. So Palafox wouldn't be there to pick up the slack. I think this team really wouldn't function without the powers of B-Boy. So full respect to this guy. It's like really a tremendous series from him.
Now, producer, have your fingers at the ready, because here's the thing I want to explain to you. Sometimes in life, even though it might be an edgy thing to say, there are all sorts of things that happen. There are problems that occur, and really, you just need a Mando. You need a man, though. You see what I did? The Mando. Now, this is the Mando ad. So here's the thing. Let me break it down for you and use relatable examples that you'll all understand. Like if I say, once upon a time, I'll tell you a story about a doctor that was incredibly OP, and he actually cracked the code, and what he was doing was working every time, and he could just transform one area of the environment and immediately be in a different environment. You think I'm talking about Dr. Mundo dominating the meta of top lane in the first half of 2014, of course, LCK, spreading to the Western regions with players like Zoro Zero. Actually, you'd be wrong. I was talking about the doctor that figured out that normal BO was misdiagnosed and mistreated, and actually that it's when the bacteria eats the sweat, it causes the smell, which is what we don't like, body odor. And then actually he transported us in the same way as they use teleport for Dr. Mundo. He transported you from a world where you sweat and you stink to a world where you sweat but you don't stink. You actually don't have that smell around you. Similarly, equally, there's a lot of things in this world are free. When Fnatic plays G2 and the timer has a 1 and it's more than just the first minute, it's 10 minutes onwards, then it's free as fuck if you're G2. Just like, actually, all of the Mando products are baking soda free, they are paraben free. You know you're safe at that point in time once you've got this already. At that point, it's all good, isn't it? Now, do you know, when you actually get into a situation where you've got things under control, like maybe you do actually try to be diligent and clean and use other products, your problem is eventually you get to that point where enough time's gone by, you start to lose control, BLG. You get to, you know, everything was looking awesome, it was going great. You're on that date with the girl, a few hours in, suddenly you see that, oh God, I see that sweat start to come. Oh wait, I just have normal soap on. That means eventually the smell will come through and I'll just smell like, no, actually BLG, what you need to do is you need to learn how to control odor and bad smells and stinking for up to 72 hours. That would last an entire best of 3 BLG. That would be exactly what you need. And you wouldn't have to sacrifice a jungler to do it. You'd just be able to get it off normally. Exactly. No problems whatsoever. No problem. I mean, obviously, the joke here should even be, because in Europe, when they play for the games in the LPL, it's usually in the afternoon the game ends. Obviously, I could even make some sort of a joke here about 5 o'clock Shadow, something about hygiene products, you know. When it gets to about 5 o'clock, Shadow's fucking drops off the game, doesn't he? Anyway, that's all to say, what about if you wanted to be number 1 in the game in North America, like FlyQuest inarguably is now that Cloud9 just lost this way, Team Liquid can't even compare to them. Well, do you know what? Mando is number 1 in America with their whole body deodorant formula, and you can find them at Walmart and Target and other retailers across the country. For the best deals, go to shopmando.com. Now, if you'd like to get on track with what I'm talking about, why not get their starter pack? Comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, you know, the classic ones, and free shipping. So as a special offer to listeners, new customers get 20% off site-wide everything with the exclusive code SUMMONING, easy enough to remember, SUMMONING, at shopmando.com, 20% off site-wide and free shipping, SHOPMANDO.com. Please support them and us by, once you purchase their product, tell them that you got it from Last Nation or something inside. Right, shout out to Mando. Now let's continue on. We'll actually go and talk. Let's talk about LEC. Should we do it, mate?
Let's do it.
Right, bro. One thing I do hate in general is people will know I'm someone who gets triggered by people who talk about, even though I know it's the sports way of doing it, I get that, mate. I don't like when people talk about orgs instead of the lineup. So in general, I do think that once teams change players, you should always allow the benefit of the doubt. They might not play the same way the old squad did, or they might not have. Bro, there is something truly cursed about the Fnatic organization, Yamato. Because how many times are they going to, like Lucy from Peanuts, have G2 hold the football, and then they run up and go, well, time for me to blast this field goal, and then it gets whipped away last second, and then they fall and go, oh, what the hell? Well, I'll definitely not fall for that next. And then they fall for it again. Because, bro, I was watching this series, both games, it's the same thing as every fucking time for the last 5 years. Fnatic starts with a lead. They get a pick. Razork is rolling. Let's see how this goes. Fucking hell, bro. It's suffering. It's just so. And the worst part of it is this, Yamato. You get the feeling that if you're the G2 players, you even yourself take comfort in this. You're just like, look, don't get ahead of ourselves, guys. They're slightly ahead now, but let's wait. Let's just wait and see. You almost get the feeling you just wait. If you're G2, you're just waiting for the moment to come where you just turn the whole game back. Like, if you're Fnatic at this point in time, mate, there's nothing except actually seeing the Nexus blow up that will give you any confidence against G2. Because this one squad, you just, every time they're in your head, you just know that there's going to be a point in the game where they are just going to, it's fucked up, mate. Because I really believe for the first few minutes of these games, you mind-fuck yourself into thinking it's going to be different, and it just never is, mate. It never is. What is this? It's madness.
We were talking about psychological band-aids before. But for there to be band-aids, there needs to be also wounds. I think there is no better example than Fnatic. I guess these games here, it's like I can give them some grace because I do think before this series, they never played against a team that actually plays the macro game at this level. In terms of how like BB and Caps push side and how narrow the window to punish them really, really is. requires kind of a deeper level of communication and like synchronization with your solo laners. And Oscarinin was never that guy, and I think for Poby this was a very new challenge, because I do think it's like if I would describe like what it means to play like high level league against low level league, is pretty much like the speed and the pace of how you achieve the same thing. It's like pushing side waves. The window to punish better players becomes a lot more narrow. And I think Fnatic in this series, eventually when mid game hit, they just got drowned out because Broken Blade and Caps were just stealing waves left and right. And then they just became so desperate in finding fights that they always attempted to do so right ahead of objectives. It's like how desperately Razork engaged with either the Wukong or even the Jarvan on the midwave on Caps, where he just didn't even flash on Talia. Just showcased to me how just out macro they were being. And I think, G2, like a big criticism for them has always been, it's like how BBS played like this year in terms of his play. Like in this series, he looked pretty damn good on his exotic picks really in Kled and Rek'Sai. And I think
his Kled was unbelievable in that first game. Like, so many fights he was surviving with nothing.
It was delicious. And I think that is probably just Oscarini's worst nightmare. It's like Oscarini has always been very disconnected from what Fnatic do in the game. And here, I think Fnatic just got hit on the head really hard, because I think the macro game was just on a whole nother level. It's like Mickey and Razork, they did a lot of plays to try to keep up, and there were like moments where they like misplayed. There was like that big fight on red buff that really opened up the game because Hans Sama got ahead. Like in that moment, Upset could have hovered longer and they could have been connected longer, and that wouldn't have opened up the game in the same way. But I feel like that moment that happened, that's where everything just came back to step one. Because I do think, like, out of the early game, they look good. They had winning positions, but it just didn't mean anything because G2 could just control the rhythm and the beat and the flow and the music that was surrounding the game. Like, Fnatic was just dancing along to whatever G2 was strumming. It's just, I think macro-wise, Fnatic just have so much to figure out. They are really, really far behind here in terms of how to execute mid to late game.
They've also just never seen a fucking engage. They don't like Yamato. For some reason against G2, I actually feel like, for real, because I do think this is real, I think there is this psychological script that's playing out in their brain that we talk about past losses. And what's weird is they always ignore that this is what they do every time as well, though. Like, their response, I think, to pressure, in this case, Yamato, I've seen this happen many times. I'll give you a very quick analogy, because I know you watch CS now. If you watch CS, one of the players who's struggling, who's a superstar name right now, is the player Nico for Falcons, right? And he's famous for being the player who hasn't won the major yet. He's been many times in position 2. He's on one of the best teams, sometimes being the #1 team or a team that's won other comparable tournaments. And what's happened is, it's not even that he's a bad player. I would say, I've always said, I don't think he's a pure choker. It's more like half the time he chokes, half the time he plays well and loses, But one of the problems I have noticed as an observer of his game over years is when he feels pressure and he feels like he's in a game that, like, you have to win and you're going to lose, what he does always is make too many players. It's not that he does what most people who are chokers actually shut down. This is what I actually think people like the Chovies of the world did in past years. It's more like they just shut down and they just play like not to lose. They play the scared game and they don't go, right? In this case, right, Nico always tries too much. He tries to make like an epic play and win the game immediately, basically, because he feels this pressure of like it's slipping away. Mate, Razork and Fnatic have that so badly, it's crazy, mate. Like, how many of these skirmishes and fights do they choose to start? Like, they just go tunnel on a player. They see, like, oh my God, we caught like the support. They just go all in onto him. And then the fight just gets turned and then G2 does some epic play and wins the fight. Like, I just feel like if you're Fnatic, like, you got I know you lose all these games. So I understand it's way harder than saying, like, keep your head about you and keep your nerves up. But you've got to like allow. Essentially, here's what I would tell them if I was their coach, Yamato. It's actually an underrated piece of advice as a coach. Is we can do to the opponent what they do to us. You know how they make us feel uncomfortable. Why don't we do that to them? Like, for example, when it's like when you're in a stalemate in the game. Because by the way, Fnatic was leading in most of these early games. When you're in a position of the game where you're not behind, like they don't have like complete control over the objectives. They're not the ones who are dictating the whole game. You don't have to like force a play. You can just sometimes let the game come to you, or you can let them make a mistake, or you can let them do the wrong engage. Like they see your support steps forwards and they all go in and blow their ults. Because I feel like that's the most boring thing to me, Yamato. I feel like in my brain when I replay all the series this year where Fnatic loses to G2, they're always leading in the game. People like Razork look like they're fed. Then they always go and they just go slightly too far on the play. Like they just try to force the most amazing pick of all time. Or they notice like for 1 millisecond it's 4v5 and they have to fight and try and win with numbers. But then the other guy joins the fight and then like they just feel too. I know it sounds weird because they never win, but they feel too greedy, Yamato. They don't feel like I don't think they play this way against everyone else. They're still aggressive against everyone else, but against G2 they have desperation in there, mate.
Yeah. I think I would tie it to two things. I definitely think there's a psychological aspect to it, but I also think that there is a difference between this roster and the previous ones. I do think that the predictability that Fnatic have in terms of how they draft and how they play, they have this approach where they isolate Oscarine at all times. Like I think Oscarine is the type of player that doesn't communicate about what he's doing. He's kind of just like a part of the team, and then he just kind of shows up or doesn't into the fights. He's kind of like a way worse version of a Zeus that just plays tanks and occasionally like Rumble. Because there's a lot of those games where even Fnatic win, where he just like dies on the weak side over and over again in a game that is very stompy for Fnatic because their bot lane just happens to get such big leads because of how well they laid, which they managed to do in this game too. Like what Labrov was getting done to himself was crazy. Like that karma death after karma death, or even the Alistar burning flash. Like they're getting stomped in the bot lane, and that should be like really, really significant. And now the big problem for Fnatic is that as everyone opens up on the map, Oscarini showing on one side and everyone else being in fog of war, that's already like a big like alert. It's like, oh, the enemy's going top side, they're playing on the opposite side of the map. Like it's very, very telling what the next step of what Fnatic want to do. And I think players like Broken Blade and players like Caps, players like even Vladi or Akana, like they're going to massacre you because they're going to steal every wave and you're going to be chasing ghosts, trying to pressure them out because you're going to be too slow. The solo laners of Fnatic need to be on that wave. They need to be fighting. They need to leverage Fog of War, and they need to pull people to themselves, which is something like BB and Caps do. In that game, as they're trying to catch Caps stealing waves on side, as Labrov is warding for him, like G2's playing a way more connected game. Like it seems like they've adjusted and gained a lot from playing internationally, because in terms of how they play the macro and how they use jungle support to make everybody farm is clearly there. Fnatic on the other side is like, they need to just be on those side waves first, and they need to be there ready to fight and to contest. And I think that Humanoid, although, you know, they had issues leading up to, you know, the playoffs and everything kind of fell apart and they stopped improving, this was one of Humanoid's strength, like putting his body on the wave. Whether it was him dying or not dying to do so, he forced the decision out of people. And that was uncomfortable for Razork, as he stated in the interview, that, you know, here he's allowed to make his own decision. But at least in the mid game, in between the objectives, it actually gave them, you know, some nuance. And I don't know if Fnatic are going to be able to figure this out. Like, they're going to play in a very, very long time because of the format. I think it's like 3 weeks. But I think this is going to be the main issue as they try to qualify to the World Championship. Can they get away with creating big enough leads through bot that they can win games? The danger is, as the late game approaches, macro becomes more relevant, and which fights you take and which fights you choose is going to be way more important. And we know that with this, with some of the Fnatic players, that this is not the biggest strength. So I'm worried for them.
No, I mean, as you say, the weirdest thing is, because of the format, there's not even any officials to show you improved. Like, they basically have to wait like 3 weeks or something, and then they're just playing the playoffs, and that's going to be your entire, like, world's qualification riding on that. No, the other thing that's a real bummer if you're a Fnatic fan is, for all the goodwill Poby built up, he fucking spent it all in this game, mate. Like, he had a nightmare. He also looked, by the way, himself a bit desperate. Like, what the fuck were those TPs? We just hinting the whole game off. Like, mate, we were all cheering for you. We were all pulling for you after those first 2 weeks, mate. We wanted it to work. That was bad.
Yeah, it was tough. His TPs looked like Razork's engages. Like, as mentioned, they're just desperate. It's as if like they can feel the game kind of running away from them, and they don't know how to solve it. And usually when teams are in those spots, they say, guys, we just need to fight. Let's just take a fight. And that's what they did. They just took a fight, and those fights were not good. It was rough to watch.
And I'll tell you the one positive about the fact that Humanoid isn't in the roster anymore. They can't only blame it on Humanoid now, mate. It can't just be like, oh, fucking... Like, listen, Razork's still part of it, but it's also not just him only. There's something about, like, the dynamic of this squad. Like, it's clearly, by the way, the most obvious thing to isolate, it's just the question is who does this, is whatever the decision-making is once they're ahead and they're in those, like I say, what looks like a stalemate position, they always seem to just pull the trigger way too quick. They just seem to just like go try and force a play. And the worst thing is, in general, in games, I will say, when you know the other person is really horny to make a play, that's classic. That you just re-engage on them. Like it's gonna happen all day long. So no, it's right sad because also now I have to wait weeks and weeks and weeks just to find out if Fnatic's good or not. Like this sample size was way too short with Popey. I can't draw any. It's why I agree with you. The Fnatic looked way better in the other series, but who the fuck were they playing? Like people we don't really care about. I don't give a fuck how they look against BDS or something else. SKG. Who gives a shit about that? You know what I mean? But the whole point is, this is why the LEC format has failed. Because what we really needed was an Ascend group style like we have in the Asian regions, because that's given us all the answers. You're giving us no fucking answers in LEC. There's nothing. I can't even get too hyped off G2 off of this one, mate, because a lot of it looked like Fnatic flaws. I will say, though, I do agree. The biggest bright spot clearly was the Broken Blade performance, though, because I already know Scumon's good. I think he actually got slightly overhated on because of his first international performances. But no, Broken Blade, bear in mind, both picks are like off-meta picks. This was really good, man. Like his backside was cool as well. He was doing some great shit.
I really, really enjoyed BB here. This is vintage BB. We can hate him for his Warwick, but we can also occasionally love him for his Warwick. And this
feels like one of the best points in his career, mate. Domestically, he's really good. Internationally, he's actually had some good performances. Finally, like he's having a really good sort of month or two.
Definitely, yeah. He's found himself. I think just a hallmark of a great player. Like you have dips in performances and finding yourself again. I think it's very, very respectable. I'm still at the point in time where the better G2 play, the more and more I would wish that we saw like Scumon play together with Mickey. Because I feel like if Mickey was still on this team with what they're doing, what they're showing, they would be so damn insane.
It's like you said, even when they win a series, Labrov still has moments he looks weak, mate. He just does. He's in England, we say like sticks out like a sore thumb. He's just the obvious problem in the squad, isn't he?
Yes, sir. And while I can see clear improvement, it's just that he has so much catching up to do. Like Mickey has been through the ringer, and it's just a question of like, if you have a roster together with Caps, it's like you want to be good fast. It's like investing a lot of time into a player like Labrov. It's like investing time into Scumon. I can understand because the ceiling, what he could achieve could be something super, super interesting. But I still can't see what the draw was for Labrov to be on this roster. This should be like a premium, very premier seat. And I wonder, it's like if we want to look that far ahead, it's like, are we going to see a world where we get like a G2 Alvaro or something, or a Mickey return? Because I think if G2 continue the next year with everything the same way, I would be very, very surprised, right? But I think G2, I think, like I made the point that at the beginning of the split, the team that should be the front runner to win it all should be G2 due to the experience they've gained over the last 2 months in contrast to everybody else. And I still feel the same way. I think G2 look pretty damn good. Macro looks super, super nice. And I think they should be able to beat out the other top four through it, definitely.
It's not as though I'm saying like Labrov has to retire. Like, mate, the obvious thing I would do with him is just go back to BDS. I think for both parties, that's a fucking slam dunk signing. Or there's a couple of other options. There's some other teams you could also make better. Like, for example, you already played with Shio. Maybe you join Heretics. I don't know about that. Like, I'd probably keep extending myself. But I tell you another one, Vitality. Maybe you want to play with Kazi or something like. These are all like moves where maybe it could like turn your career around, and you could even be a good addition to their team. Like, because listen. I think that Labrov's problem as well is, he's just played with too many good players now, mate. And the fact that Scumon's a rookie and he's playing well just makes you look really bad, unfortunately. So it didn't work out in G2, okay, but there's plenty of other destinations where Labrov can still be like a top half support player. I think he just needs a different environment. That's why I say, though, if I was him, I'd be trying to get back to BDS, mate. It hasn't worked with Paris. You already played with Ice. And also, it just feels like Striker knows how you work, mate. He can play to your strengths. Like, he made you look really good. You did it in the server, but he created an environment where you got to show off all your strengths. In G2, it's like, I feel like all I see is your weaknesses. That's the worst part about Labrov in G2.
It's a very similar parallel to like T1. Like, if G2 managed to piece it together on this year, Like I would be so damn
Absolutely.
impressed. Like if they make it to quarters, I would be so damn impressed. Like obviously, barring the schedule, this needs to be a tougher one. Like if they manage to do it and they win Summer 2, I think that they have done a great job. I thought Winter they should have been the team to come out swinging, but because everyone made like roster changes and so forth, but. I would be very, very impressed if they manage to get super, super much out of Labrov. If he finds newer strides, like he's definitely improving, but not at a fast enough rate for me to be excited about the prospects for the World Championship. Because that's what we are measuring G2 by. We are measuring by like how well are they going to do internationally, are going to be a weapon at the World Championship. Because Mickey is the type of player that you do compromise for. It's like you compromise for him, you compromise for Caps. And everybody else, there's players that you can do side grades on, definitely. But with Caps and Mickey, you're not going to find anyone to improve with. And we know already that Caps and Mickey love playing together. We know that these two are inseparable. I don't think that's because their relationship's out. It must have been something different. So I'm intrigued how the offseason will go. But that's far from here.
And
Thorin,
go
ahead. No, I wanted to switch topic, but go ahead.
No. Well, one last thing I'd say is this. Even though on paper, they actually should, for real, just run back what they did like 4 years ago. They should just do them like when Mickey X went to XL and looked awesome, and suddenly XL was a challenger, and then G2 was like, yeah, just come back to the G2, mate. They should do that again. The problem is this, Yamato. He's got a whole extra year on his contract. If I'm Fnatic, by the way, I am never fucking selling you this player back unless I get like some ridiculous, Falcons in CS level buyout. Like it's going to cost millions if you want this motherfucker. Because I'll tell you what, when I give him up, not only do I lack the player, you're then just going to win the fucking league again, aren't you? So I'm sorry, if I'm Fnatic, this is one of those times, by the way, where I never let what I think is one of the biggest flaws in esports, which is you let the player talk to the owner and he like gets it. Like Jack's had this happen to a bunch of times in games. You let the guy convince the owner you should just let this guy go. It's like, listen, mate, if I have you under contract, I'm doing Carlos level shit. Like, I'm sitting on that contract till I get the deal I want. You know what I mean? Because it would also be an int for Fnatic to give him back.
Yeah,
I agree. G2 should try and get him. It's the most obvious upgrade you could make, and it'd actually make everyone else in the roster can stay. That's the reason why it's a great move. Like, if it doesn't work out this year, it probably isn't going to with Labrov. You bring Mickey X back in, mate. That roster with Mickey X in could do everything. That could cook, mate. That could be a really good international squad.
Also, Fnatic has way too much of a history of losing, like the greatest players of all time.
Yeah, to G2, they just give fucking generational players to G2 at this point in time, don't they? I know.
That's like they wouldn't be able to recover from that. Yeah, the funny part is that Mickey was actually a Fnatic Academy support before we picked him up on Splice. So there's some roots there. But
right. What topic were you going to flip to?
I just wanted to mention because it's like usually we don't talk about like the worst teams, because it's not super interesting. But Team Heretics dropping a series against SK Gaming.
That is rough.
That is like.
Remember, horrible. Heretics is sort of in that like GX category where normally they give like a better team a good series and just lose. I know what you mean. Like on paper, I'm sorry, this SK roster, especially because they last moment sold one of their best players, the Buka guy, they're supposed to for real lose every game as far as I'm concerned. This roster's dog shit. So it's actually, I know what you mean. That does like already make me just lose all hope in Heretics, mate. Like that's a bummer.
It's like Team Heretics. I thought their biggest strength was to to be aware of their own strength. It's like understanding where you're at, and then it's like SK Gaming. They understood the assignment in Game 3. It's like both teams aren't doing jack shit. Let's pick just the most scaling composition ever, and they did it, and they succeeded. It's like SK Gaming. It's like we had footage of them playing this streamer tournament, so we were aware of how bad they were. It's like their form didn't look good so far. They just looked like free wins, and now Team Heretics in a position where they're, because of this loss against SK, their season is just over. It's like, sure, like they have one more matchup to play, but if you lose against SK, like how are you gonna win? Because it's like, just to remind people, it's like if you are last place in your group, you are out. Like Navi is pretty much already out, and Team Heretics seems to be in that same boat. And Team Heretics should have been a story of progression and improvement, but in the end now it's like, especially with like how Sheo is playing, it's very disappointing.
Yeah.
This is how it's going.
So, unironically, is Elo held? Like, this guy actually looks like it's the other way around. He deserves to be in one of the best teams in the league, mate. I do think earlier this year, the Sten guy showed some good performances. The real problem they have in that team is, one, they never should have signed that mid laner. That mid laner was an int the second they signed him. And then two, they also do have the problem that, like, Flackhead really is like the tertiary carry. He's not supposed to be like your primary piece that you put an OP champion on, then carry the whole game. Like, he's not. And also, we've got a lot of good ADCs in the league now. He's not a strong enough carry in that sense. I agree, though. I think it's insane in a format where only the last place team fucks up. You're going to be that team now. That is so fucking egregious, mate. I know what you mean. It's terrible. It's terrible.
And looking now at Team Heretics as an organization that built now 2 rosters, it's like. The first roster they put together, right, was sure, they had the roster with the Japanese top lane and so forth, but the roster after,
like the Perks and Wunder,
like Wunder, Perks, Jankos, Flacket, Trimby. It's like
people thought that would go to Worlds. Yeah, that was supposed to be a banger.
But it's like looking at it for what it was. It's like where is the firepower? You know, you want to mix a Jankos.
Yeah, they've done it twice now. You're right.
You want to mix a Jankos and a Wunder with like some fiery players that could, actually, carry when it comes down to like the mechanical aspect. Like that's not where Jankos was shining anymore. And the previous roster that they had was like more of a careful mix with Jack Spector in the beginning, and then Flacket and Veteo had like moments and so forth. It's like where's the volatility? Where's the firepower? And then they brought Camilo, who came from LFL2. It was LFL1, LFL2, which was like a really, really off the cuff signee. And putting him together with Flacket, as you mentioned, it's like where is the firepower? Like there's going to be some moments where you are in a fight and you need someone to just pull the trigger and hit straight on the head. It's like what are we? Where are we? Where are we? And it's just in terms of those 2 rosters, they just stick out in a way where you have pieces that are good, but you're missing the butter and the cream to make this cake taste anything. It's just bland.
And I'll just throw this out there in case someone's like a newer fan who's only watched LEC a few years. The players on SK, by the way, that roster will never do anything ever. It's a complete waste of time. It's not even the roster they wanted to make. They sold the Boudica guy. And if you look at the 2 players who are like the big name, Skeens and Abadagi have both already been in LEC. Abadagi was in years ago, and Skeens was in Vitality like 6 years ago, something mental, mate. He's considered like a Checolate, like a failed LEC player. So it's not even like these are prospects. Like it's not like look at this up and coming Skeens and Abadagi, Yamato. Maybe they're not even supposed to be in the league. What is this? They're not supposed to be here today.
Like Skeens, Kedui, I think they're serviceable. I think they are the ones that give this team, a little bit of something. But I think SK is currently one of those teams where I'm like, I would be interested in some leadership change. I like give me an idea, give me an identity, like showcase why you are showcase in a very, very honest way, in a true way, how you're trying to win the league instead of just fielding a roster. That's just the impression I get from SK. And I have to, just look at the scouting. Like if this was a team that was very experimental and they just brought in a bunch of players we haven't heard of and they tried to do something out there and they were a little bit more effective and maybe they integrated like their challenger team a little bit better, and there was like a system that made them unique in the league, I would like that a lot. But I just think that they are uniquely bad. I just want a region where 10 teams are actively trying to win in their own way, and the circumstance of what you are capable of doing, of course, is very different. I don't expect SK to sign Broken Blade and whoever the fuck, like the big names, but I expect you to showcase me something that makes me feel like, oh, you're trying to cause some damage. You're trying.
I'll give you the counterpoint. Here's my counterpoint, Yamato.
Okay.
That's why I actually do think for real, Riot should change their position from last year or whatever it was and let Falcons join the league. Bro, I keep telling people this. I understand outside of the server why people have a problem with Falcons. I understand why, like, for example, in Counter-Strike, everyone makes fun of the fact they spent so much money. But I always tell people, yeah, but it's not you that's spending it. Like, I love the idea in CS, they're just stacking all-star players. Bro, if they actually, essentially, here's what I would do if I was Riot. I would just say this, look, if I let you in LEC, You can't do what SK did, though. You can't have budget rosters. You have to join because you actually want to come and spend money. Because if you want to come, by the way, and make a roster where you're going to actually sign players for like millions of dollars and max out their like salary cap, then do it. Then, because I agree, SK right now is just, look, they made Heretics look stupid, but they're a waste of time, mate. Like, it's not even what it used to be a couple of years ago. I used to say, the reason I used to respect SK, because I know the philosophy of the org, is they were trying to, like, moneyball. That's what they were doing for years. They were just min-maxing, and they'd have, like, one player that was, like, a sort of good player that they paid a bit more. Then they'd have a bunch of players that, like, the other teams just didn't want from the ERLs. And then what they'd do is they'd just pick up one veteran, and then they'd try and just creep into the last playoff spot. But if you ever looked how much they'd spent, they actually were sort of killing it by even being a relevant playoff team with, like, you know, 1 or 1.5 players you care about. Now they're just like the new Rogue, mate. They're just a relevant team that no one gives a shit about. So if instead Falcons wants to come and spend millions of dollars and import players and hey, I'm in for it, mate. I'm here for it. Because I'll tell you why I need another team to care about Yamato. Look at the schedule for next week. Look at the schedule of Monday and Tuesday, the 25th and 26th. Bro, there are no games I give a shit about there. The games are SKG2, who gives a shit? BDS Heretics, again, don't give a fuck. Vitality MCOY almost becomes interesting. Depends on Vitality. And then Na'Vi GX. But this week is a write-off. Again, remember what I just said. Whenever you look at the LPL LCK one, you're like, bro, there's too many good games. Can I even watch all these matches? The LEC, you can just have the week off if you want. Who gives a shit? Like, what is that?
I'm seeing it. I'm with you. I'm with you. You know, it's like maybe SK deserves some grace, right? They had like the irrelevant runs and the Niski runs and the Exa kicks and the dosses. Maybe held on for that too long. Maybe we're being a little bit too harsh because this year is just that bad. But you know, I just want to see more great games. I just think
You've also just tilted me by bringing up the GM in, because think about this, Yamato. So Exakit came into the league. I know people have bad memories. Bro, when he first came in, he looked like a very viable prospect. He was showing some legit carry games where he did like Kalist type shit, like just went super balls deep and did all the right mechanical moves. But what was the weird thing they did? They bizarrely just let him have DOS, a guy who's played 1 million years in League of Legends. And as far as I can tell, DOS's entire secret to being pro in League of Legends, Yamato, is befriend a good ADC in solo queue. And if you do that, then he goes, hey, I think DOS should be my support. Then he gets in the league somehow. No one ever knows why, but he does. He gets back in, Kobe, all these fuckers do it. But then you let the prospect Exakick with this new support player, just what you call in English, wither on the vine. He just gets worse every split, and eventually you kick him. Okay, problem solved. Then you get in some shit hot Korean AD carry import. By the way, that guy was good. The Rael guy was good. Again, scuffed bot lane. And then finally you make a roster, and then he's out the squad. Like, even the players that are good, Yamato, they don't develop, they don't keep hold of. And every year you just reshuffle in the squad and you just end up with not a very good roster. Because if you'd have ever taken some of these pieces, here's the difference. The MCOYs and the BDSs of the world got these, like, you know, prospects, and they actually developed the roster and slowly put one piece in and one piece out until eventually some of those pieces are still there today, but are in a good squad, like, or a good player. SK every year just felt like you restarted every time, and everything you gained was lost. It's not good GMing, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it just seems like every player is just viewing SK as a stepping stone. And if that's what you are, I think, you know, there's orgs that find success in that. I think you see as example Heroic, you know, they're making a lot of money, but how much money is SK making moving these players around? Like, that's not even the idea of bringing up the talent, you know. It's like they are not taking any bold risks in terms of their players, and I don't see like a very, very clear integration of their ERL team. So if there was a structured plan, like I spoke to Papa Smithy for like 4 hours, and his approach to how he did things at 100 Thieves, it's like there was a very, very clear long-term plan in terms of what they wanted to achieve, and he was it was very important to him that the ERL players that they signed there were signed with the purpose of nurturing them and putting them, of course, to the next level. I want to see more of that, because we don't see that enough in the league, besides, of course, KC, who now have 2 academy teams, and look how much that meant to them. And SK is a team that has an ERL team, so I'm wondering, it's like, what is the actual plan in terms of the integration? Because winning Prime League, what does it actually give you when you have an LEC team?
And also, yeah, it's worth pointing out the other thing that is the issue is they have an ERL team, but Prime League, again, if you go back in time, mate, 3 or 4 years ago, Prime League was fine still. Prime League has had all the talent stripped out of it, and it is way behind LFL and Superliga. Like, those two, I even think NLC just gets fake hype because of Los Ratones, mate. Like, there's two
NLC is nothing.
Essentially, once you go outside of LEC, all people care about is LFL, LVP, and then maybe some Turkish league or something. That's it. The other ones get carried by like the ERL title and the fact that Los Ratones wins EMEA. Oh my God, they're from the NLC. Yeah, the other NLC teams have players that are like playing for free, mate. You know what I mean? And people you've never heard of or like a million years old in their career. I know what you mean? Like Prime League used to be a pretty good league. That is a long time past now, mate. It's irrelevant now. It just is. It's just irrelevant, mate.
Yeah. It's like even in the discourse, it's like the ERL teams, they wish they had more of a LEC2 rather than the leagues, where I could see a world if you have all the top teams from all the regions just come together and have their own league.
Yeah, essentially what you're doing is you want I mean, EMEA Winter and Masters does this, but it's just for a tournament. But I know what you mean. There should be a league like that. It should just be like the top 2 or 3 orgs from LFL, the top 2 or 3 Superliga teams, 1 Prime League team, 1 NLC team, and then eventually you make like an 8-team league, like you say, 1 layer below. I think actually, if anything, the time's right for it. Seems like the business could be done there. Remember, the Carmine Corps and the Vitalities of the world are going to sell out the stadium at the Heretics of the world. Like a lot of these squads, a lot of them are even academy squads, would be like its own ecosystem, I think, mate. And also, wouldn't it be way better to try the talent there than just play a whole ERL split? You know, I'd much rather see this guy play against the Superliga teams if he's an LFL player, or because the problem with the AMEA is like the Masters tournament is. It is good, but it's not the same as a league. And if we're trying to see league, to really know if you can make it an LEC, we need to see you play a whole split, you know.
Oh, definitely. I think it would be a lot better for the top end, and I guess the loss would be that like it's a lot of positions for players that would just disappear. True. But that's true. Maybe that's just something that you need to do because the ERL, the economy of ERL teams also needs to make sense for them, and they are suffering from the same issues the LEC is suffering or the LTA is suffering in their own way and variant. And we're always creeping into that decision. It's like we just need to concentrate the biggest teams in one place.
No, agreed. Right, I reckon we just do a little break and do some Q&A, yeah?
Sounds good, brother.
We'll be back after this little break to do the viewer questions. Right, we are back for the final section of the show, which is, of course, viewer questions. If you would like to ask a question, then become a Last Free Nation Discord subscriber, and there is a channel where you can just submit SI questions, it's basically called. I will pick from them, as usual. If you don't want us to read your name out, just say, please don't read my name out. Easy does it. So, Penthos asks, this is an interesting question. I like this, mate. Get ready. What group of modern players would you pick to recreate the structure of the classic Rocks Tigers? So he describes it, he's doing his version of it here. He describes that as the main carry is obviously Smeb, that was the top laner if you remember. Prey was like one of the main engaged players, believe it or not, which is true, even though he's an AD carry. And then he puts, this is where he's a bit mean, and Kuro being on the team itself. Even though that's mean, I sort of fuck with it in a way. So essentially, I know why he's picked this one, Yamato, because he wants us to use modern players, but the reason why he's asking us to make this squad is because obviously it's one of the most unusual team compositions ever. Like, I always thought the reason why them not winning that 2016 semi against T1, where I'm almost certain they would actually have beaten Samsung and won Worlds off that, is I think that was like the most unique League of Legends team maybe ever, mate. Like, the way that like on paper, that team shouldn't have had any chance to have all that success. Like, even some of the people weren't, like, except for Brain Gorilla Biscuit, a lot of them weren't even studs coming into the squad. Like, but you look at, like, what an amazing fucking run, etc. So, like, if we're trying to match the archetypes, what players would we even start to think? Like, who could be in Smeb's position? Who could be like a shock main carry, top laner? Who would even fit that bill, do you think?
It's weird. Like, we could start with easy, I guess, because the top lane is tricky. Because the first thought that comes to mind is Zeus, right? But Zeus is so isolated in the way he plays that it doesn't really like fit. I think the easy one for me is the person that I associate the most with Peanuts gameplay would be Owner. I think during the Rox Tiger era, Pino was just like mechanically
He
like
was a
doing
stud back then,
crazy shit. Like
yeah.
his Lee Sin was
Yes.
something else. He was kind of like the player that you just need to put in a position to do crazy shit and get him there, and he would. So that's like the easy slot for me. But with
Okay.
Owner in the jungle, what's a mid laner that doesn't do
You know what?
anything?
Here's the joke. Right, here's the sad thing. People do forget. It's actually one of the tragedies of that Freak of Freaks later that failed to Cloud9. Is actually that year when he wasn't in Rocks, Kuro was all right as a mid laner actually at the time. Whereas I will say, I do think in this era he was a weakness. He was a liability. The problem is, it's really hard. Again, this is why there's such a unique squad, Yamato. It's really hard to think of a Korean mid laner that has had anything comparable to the success Kuro had. But it was bad. Like I almost want to troll and say, fuck it, let's make an extreme version. We'll make the rest of the squad, and then the mid laner, if we're just making it, he can just be Parler Fox. There you go. You're just getting carried, and you think you're doing something, but we don't. Sorry.
And where else do we go? You need
The
to
bot
step
lane's
in here
also
a little
tricky.
bit.
You know what? I'll tell you what. This is the tricky thing because I also think Prey is one of the most unique AD carries to ever play League of Legends. If people don't know, he not only had like some weird, like sneaky flackhead, like I'll go even in lane shit, but it's true. He also would literally be the main engage because remember, Gorilla was more like the Enchanter player. You know, he would be the main engage even, and then also supposedly like shot called half the time. I don't think there's ever been a player. And the joke is, I don't think of any country there was ever a player like that. That sounds like the most unique AD carry to ever play the game. So I think we're gonna have to already just pick a quality of him. You know, like
It's like the
go on.
I don't know.
Go
The only two names that I would say are like it's similar at all. It's like a player that comes to mind is like Light, just because of how good he
okay,
was.
Webbo, yeah.
It's like he was probably like the best AD in the world when it was like Jin, Ashe, Varus on rotation. Like he was so damn sharp in terms of his ult usage, and it's so much harder nowadays because now it's like you don't get away with being like so specific, especially in like a fearless era. So it's like Light would come to mind as a player that would fit in that role. But even then, it's like now he's not at his peak, you know. There's like the meta is different. It's like it's very, very hard to slot someone in. It's like Gumayushi is also like known for playing those champions specifically, but he never stood out to me to be the guy to be the one pulling the trigger in the same way. It doesn't really work.
Now I'm trying to think because the thing is, to me, it's also going to be tricky. It's even going to be tricky to put like Gorilla's position because, like I say, I always thought Gorilla was amazing at like he was like the fucking guy who could just play all the enchanters and like again, if it's like an Arden Sensimeta, this is the sort of guy you'd expect to be fucking cracked. You know, I'm trying to think of modern player who even because here's the issue, right? If you want a player who's more on like the cerebral, you think of people like Lehens and stuff. Yeah, but Lehens sort of is like a hook champ player. You know what I mean? Like I think it's the Lehens. I think this Gorilla one's tough too. Who are we going to put as a support?
It's like the easy way out is just picking the players that are good at everything and are just really successful now. Because like the only person that would like in my mind belong there is maybe like Duro. Because he's like playing the Enchanter well. He's like very, very solid in terms of how he approaches things. Because I think Gorilla was just, as I remember, it was just pretty damn good at everything and was capable of like bending the meta towards his way by finding spots to like play Janna out of nowhere. And it's like, wow, they played Janna Twitch. It's like, what the hell is happening? And they're just carrying the game. It's like, all right. He finds the counter to Zyra and Misfortune. It's like unforgettable things.
Yeah.
I guess it's like he had like some Keria-esque quality to him.
Oh, I tell you what, someone I might put in there, because here's the thing. Technically, this isn't a real team. It never has to play League of Legends, so I could put Parler Fox in. You know what? Maybe Mako could go in his spot. I think Mako's a little bit more of that type of player.
Yeah.
Again, it's hard because the problem with this is like a lot of these players have played a million champions now, so I know what you mean. But if they're at this point in their career, they're probably good at everything. But we're trying to like pick certain points in their career. I agree though. The Smeb one's going to be the hardest of all, mate. Like, I don't think. You know what? The joke would be, we're going to cheat. Are you ready? Here's how we're going to cheat, Yamato. Smeb is going to be played by 2021 Zhao Hu. There you go. And he was just top lane. Because I agree. I know what you mean. If you want like the style, Zeus would be a good pick. But like Zeus definitely isn't like the shot calling guy you play around. Again, I know what you mean. He's more like the guy who joins the fight and then carries it, if you know what I mean. So I think again, Smeb also one of the most unique players to ever play League. Like the guy was fucking amazing.
I was
he might have been the best player.
You know, it's funny that you went back in time because I also in my mind like I was thinking of like Nuguri 2020 Nuguri, you know,
Not a bad show.
like I guess that was the guy that came to
Yeah.
my mind. Like that team was so complete and
And
they
they
did so
played sort
much,
of the
but
top side too, as well. Because you remember, he even used to have that thing. Actually, you know what? Here's why I know you're sort of right. You picked up on something, Yamato. Both Smeb and Nagori, at points in their careers, had that thing where they would just like inexplicably die in lane once, but it like activated them to carry the game after that. If you know, like the 2 death power spike for
yeah,
Nagori.
yeah,
It was like Smeb also would do that sometimes. He'd have like a random Fiora death for no reason. They just carry the whole game after that. That's not a bad shout, actually. And also, as that also makes the point, which is a valid one. I think Nagori one of the biggest tragedies in fucking Korean League of Legends in years. Like, this guy should be like playing today and be a rival of Bin if there was any like actual fucking like justice. In fact, you know what? That's the most brutal one of all, Yamato. Imagine going back in a time machine when both Griffin and Damwon came up and telling everyone, oh, pretty much all the Griffin players are still cracked out like 7 years later or whatever. But there's only really fucking Canyon anyone gives a shit about from the Damwon. Like, they're irrelevant. And in fact, Beryl is a fucking joke. Like, it's actually mad because you would have thought, actually, the funny thing was, if anything, Griffin were the ones where all the players looked super skilled but didn't fit together that well all that well. It was Damwon that was like the unit, you know, and their top side looked legendary. Mate, I thought that top side would be playing today, would go down in history, you know. Like, how would you ever break apart that squad? The Nagori Canyon Showmaker, you just run that for like 10 years if you can. That's like a slam dunk top side. No, I think that's a good shout. Considering this is actually quite a tricky question, I think we're not a bad roster there. Obviously, even a chance to just put a diss to Palafox, and there you go. Congrats on the win, bitch. But, you know, just doesn't look out for you. That's all. You know, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Right, the next question is going to be... This is an interesting one because obviously Yamato wasn't studying the game from day one. He was playing as a player. So I actually want to see what you think of this. Nadnerb says, where do you rate Wei Zhao all time for AD carries? Now, I don't know if you watched really old school LPL, did you? Did you watch Wei Zhao back in the day?
yeah. I think that World Elite roster was like the first time I actually like sat down and reviewed VODs properly. That was like the eye opener because I remember like people made dissertations on like how they played at IPL when they won that competition in terms of how they managed waves, how they played around waves, and Wei Zhao was immaculate. Wei Zhao was pretty damn good. It's so hard to judge him against the rest of the pool because I do think that he was very ahead of his time, but seasons back then weren't even connected to years. It was just like certain tournaments that just happened to happen during this period, and then form kind of went back and forth. And my flaw here in terms of my like gap in history is post season 2. What was going on there? Because there I have no clue. So you need to fill me in if there was any action there.
No, basically, I'll give you the quick rundown, right? I do think this is a great question because I do think, sadly, this is one of the forgotten players at this point. In the same way as in the modern day, people do for support forget Mad Life, which is crazy because at the time, Mad Life was it. It's the same for ADC. If you ask about ADC, you know how the problem Mad Life has is most fans' brains stop at Matter. They go back to Matter and then they don't remember Mad Life was before Matter. Same thing with ADC. People think about LPL ADCs and they think Uzi I. Their brain stops at Uzi I and they forget before that there was a guy called Wei Zhao who was better. And in fact, I even think it's a good analogy because to me, these two players, Mad Life and Wei Zhao, changed forever their role. Like everything that the modern supporter ADC does that the best ones do, these guys pioneered. Like back then, you have to remember, Wei Zhao came up in the era when ADC being a bot lane, 2-lane position was a new thing. In fact, if people don't know, I think he actually in like season 1, the one where they beat CLG, I think he even played some games top lane because back then the like damage dealing carry player would sometimes play top lane, much like Dota actually, people don't know. Like famously Chowster would even play that role sometimes in CLG back then. So first of all, when they made real bot lanes, etc., and he got that FZZF guy as his partner, he was the best ADC. I can tell you, he was the best in the world. And in fact, back then, when his actual competition was like Double Lift and Prey and people like that, fucking Woong, I thought he was better than all these guys because all these guys had like an area. Like Woon was smart, and then Doubleth had mechanics. This guy had the whole package. He had like it was an amazing laner. By the way, in team fights, he was probably the best. That's why his team would even extend the laning phase to get him super powerful. Then in team fights, just do 5v5 team fights. I also think if people don't know, like as you're saying, the problem then was a bunch of his players in WE left and made the EDG team. Like his support and jungle went off over there with Nami and won all the championships. Some people will forget the last year of his career, 2014, he actually had like a mini Renaissance because he was basically like on a scuffed roster and he had to just hard carry them. But I remember famously, this is actually when Kelsey Moser was writing, so I actually not only watched the games, I can remember a lot of her write-ups. And one thing he got amazing at was he became way better at being like a self-sufficient ADC who could almost like lane, but then also like be cognizant when a gank would come in because he couldn't just trust that like his support would play for him or his jungler or something. So I can tell you, the real tragedy of Wei Zhao's career is because he basically only played for like 2 and a bit years, it'll make it, actually, I guess more, it's more like 3 and a bit years, maybe like 3.5 years. At the time when he retired, that was enough. You would have still been like a GOAT contender or like best ADC ever. The problem now is League has lasted so long and the people in the generation after Wei Zhao had the 10-year careers, that it just means that like he's not going to be anyone's GOAT anymore at this point in time. Like even Uzi I had way more years where he competed against the best. People like the Namis were more championships. By the way, people like Deft, Ruler, these guys have unbelievable long-term body of work, all the championships. Obviously, in his case, he didn't win Worlds. This wasn't the LPL was good enough to do that. I agree. IPL 3, IPL 5 at the time was massive, but that was before. I mean, I'm sorry, that'll just never count like a Worlds. It just won't. It was good at the time, but I always throw this out there as well. It only had Blaze at it. If you don't know, they had an online qualifier for Korea and Blaze won it, and Blaze wasn't the best team in Korea at the time. It was actually like Frost and Najin. So unfortunately, there's a bunch of reasons as to why it's not the GOAT ADC, but I do still think if you make an ADC class, put it this way, once you get past the really obvious names I just said, Deft, Ruler, maybe even Viper, Uzi I, these names that have to be mentioned, he's right there. He's right there. And crucially, I do think the thing he should be remembered for, like I said, is he's like the first real modern ADC and everyone else just copies off after him. Before that, it wasn't determined how that role would be played, how you play for that. Because actually, I always tell people this story. One of the most interesting development aspects of the LPL is the LPL being Chinese did essentially copy what they thought was the way you play the game from Dota, which is Dota was all about at this point into history. They're having the one carry that you all play for. It was called 4 Protect 1. By the way, that's essentially what raising the puppy with Uzi I is, just like a bastardization of the same concept that if you all play for this one mega carry and get him to the right point in the game, he can carry all the team fight. Wei Zhao was the player you did that for because he was so cracked out. He was unbelievably good. So I think it's a very relevant, even though to newer fans, you might think, who's that? Because he wasn't that relevant a player in like the LPL era. Actually, a very important player in history, though. I'll say that. Okay. What about... let's see what this name is. Milkman22. I don't know anything about this, so I'll be interested to see what you say. What are your thoughts on speed running? And is speed running an esport or is it just esport adjacent? So if people don't know, speed running, as far as I know, is just where you take video games like Super Mario 64 or something, and you just try and beat the time of like a certain level or how fast you get all the stars. It's just doing like world records on like mostly single player games as far as I know. So do you know much about this world, Yamato? Do you consider it an esport? What do you think?
I think the tricky part, I think everything besides what it is very similar to esports in terms of how rigorous it is. Because some of these guys are basically playing the same. Like I've watched like Elden Ring speedruns, Sekiro speedruns, a lot of the many different like Doom speedruns in terms of the precision they need to have for like 30 or 1 hour, sometimes 2 hour segments of just like hitting everything time and time again. It's extremely, extremely impressive, and the amount of hours they need to put in to master things, or even breaking the game in the first place, because usually it's because they find like a unique bug or a unique interaction that the developer had no intention of even having in the game. It's like the aspects of the effort, I think, is comparable. But isn't esports? I think it's very, very tough to put it that way, because I think a lot of speedruns they land in the way like where it's RNG if it hits or not, like certain timings or certain beats. I think the competitive aspect is being the first one to reach the unbeatable time. There is no like it's like climbing the first mountain like climbing a mountain, reaching the peak first. It's like, sure, it's very, tense and rigorous, and it's dangerous, and it's difficult to do so, but I can't compare it to a sport in the same way. It's like you're not measuring yourself time and time again. If it was like, oh, we're gonna speed run this game, you are going to get one attempt, and you're playing against 1v1 right now in that moment, and you have the tension and the pressure of being against each other, then I think it would be an esport. But people are doing it from the comfort of their own home. And sometimes you're sitting at 4 a.m. and suddenly you hit world record speed run. Just you didn't even know it's coming. You're just doing it because you're practicing. I think that's what separates it from being an actual like sport and esport. But
I've almost never watched this at all. The only thing I know is essentially like the Quake 3 version where people would have those maps where they tried to set a record time, but defrag or whatever the fuck it's called, where they would just do and that's mainly just because people made really good frag movies where it had like, banging like drum and bass soundtrack. You just watched it for like the visual effects almost. I don't really know much about like the field. Although I will say one thing that when I did look into it a little bit, shocked me, is I always say, right, from the outside, the fighting game community is like all people for real who are like fucking, there's like people from like the ghetto and they have like that fucking street vibe. And I always expected that would be like a super raw community. But bizarrely, the fighting game community is mega woke. And I have heard speedrunning is like that, bro. I have heard it is so much about like, let's just say like political stuff and sexual identity. It's like, what's this got to do with the games? I don't want to be like a theme from 10 years. The games. I don't get why that has to be the big. So already that puts me off, mate. I've got to say.
I have never noticed what you're talking about. I'm going to be honest. Mate, bro, I think this is your algorithm, bro.
It definitely isn't. It definitely isn't. If I showed you some of the best speedrunners ever, or like the speedrunning conventions, mate, like the game's done quick thing, it is a nightmare of like, here are my pronouns shit. I'm not even joking. Like, again, just look at it.
Bro, they're just trying to be inclusive. And
I'm talking about, bro. As in there's constant dramas about it, bro. Like people melting down and battles and same thing in fighting game community. Like I've never seen an esport where it's more worse than that. Like constant just drama and shit like that,
Bro, I'm all for making like usually, bro, it's nerds coming together. If it's a safe space for anyone. I think that's good.
Except it isn't, because have you noticed how every one of these safe spaces, notice I didn't just say there, Yamato, they created an inclusive area, so now it's a paradise with no drama. I said it's constant drama, bro. What happens is the people who go, make this inclusive for me, the second they get in the door, go, everyone else out the room, you don't follow my rules, and you're a piece of shit, and you're a Nazi. It's like, bro, we're just playing games. It's games. Like, it isn't like, this is how I know there's some drama element. So lastly, I'll just say this as well. The reason I have no interest in specifically speedrunning, it's a bit like there's an episode of The Four Horsemen where we addressed that thing, where GeoGuessr, that fucking game where you just guess where the world is on the map, right? Famously, that actually had its own scandal around EWC, where it's not in EWC because the map makers boycotted the EWC and said, I won't allow my map to be used. And so actually, because the game dev, it's quite a small game dev compared to major esports game, they actually just said, well, we don't have any map space, so we're just going to drop it. We're not going to do it. Right? I said to Richard, the problem is I've never been interested in that as like a game, like GeoGuessr, because the reason why is I made it a joke, but I'm sort of being serious even though I'm joking, which is I am autistic, Yamato. So to me, that game is just autism weaponized. It's like, it's basically like the main GeoGuessr guy is just Professor X trying to find all the other autistic mutants. Like, that's all it is. That game's just like you see a blade of grass, and like, up there, that blade of grass only grows in spring in South America, and by the shadow of a plane going over, that plane goes at 242 to, fuck it, who cares, mate? Yeah, I get it. Yeah, listen, you are you're a level 10 mutant. I get it, right? If Professor X fight, that's great. I don't care about any of that. I'm sorry. Like, that's just not my shit. So essentially, in short, no, I don't care about speedrunning, unfortunately.
But that GeoGuessr, I think, creates the perfect distinction of what I tried to make of what makes an esports not. It's like they have two people competing for the same thing, trying to find a point on the map. That's what makes it a sport, Right. That's like they're competing, doing under the same metrics, same pressure, crowd, everyone. In that moment, you got to perform. I think that's what sports is.
Oh, I also will say as well, the reason why most of these things aren't esports to me as well is, to me, the sport angle isn't the idea that what you do is hard or a discipline. I think a lot of what people mean by sports, Yamato, is the things that surround sports. Like, you are professional players, there is a circuit, you are part of a team, you have coaches, you can look at history and compare yourself to the past years, you can look at the meta. So I also think things like speedrunning are like, they're probably, if to be safe, they're probably not an esport. You know what I mean? They're just some like weird hobby that everyone's into. It's all cool. Right, here's a good question. Tallahassee Riot supervisor says, what's worse, TSM fans in 2015 or T1 fans in 2025? Which is worse?
I think by virtue of size, it has to be worse now, right? It's like just the discourse. Discourse has become so much louder. It's like in terms of what Twitter is, in terms of what streaming is, like the sheer numbers of things and what's going on is just we live in a whole different universe in terms of what discourse is. It's kind of like the conversation. Like, I'm a big Kendrick Lamar fan, but people were saying, look, Kendrick Lamar had on his Super Bowl appearance had the same amount of viewership like Michael Jackson in a month. I'm like, what are we saying? Like, shut the hell up. It's like everyone has access to it. We're all on the internet. It's like there's a flow of information that gets fed to you through algorithms. It's not the same thing. It's like Michael Jackson stopped the whole world when people were not even connected. It's not the same thing at all. And for me to think back to 2015, I think it was so much softer than what it is now. It was like TSM, those fans, like at that time, it was annoying. It was annoying.
Yes.
But now it's like, it's encompassing. It's just like bled into so many different things just by sheer size. If TSM was as big back then as they were now in the context of where we're at now, they would be way worse than 2015. So in my mind, I think 2025 T1 fans, the extreme ones, win out, bro. They're sending trucks and shit.
No, the difference is, I always say this, it seemed bad back then because at the time they were the worst. So they seemed like they're ruining everything and they're shitting up all the conversations and they're all, but I always say this now. To me, most TSM fans then were just ignorant. Like maybe all they knew was TSM or they didn't know much about the game. They're like a gold player or maybe their whole thing's like, they're a little bit parasocial. Like, oh, Bjergsen has to be the best. You're just hating because you don't think he's the best or whatever, because you think Jensen's better or whatever, But the difference is, that was just annoying, Yamato. I actively do think, partly because it's a giant fan base, that the worst element of T1 fans aren't just ignorant. They're actively like malicious or malevolent. They're actually...
That's dangerous.
Like you say about the thing about doxing like people's churches and sending trucks, like, basically implying I might even kill you or something like that. Is like that. But here's the thing: what the TSM fans did in theory, Yamato, isn't wrong. It's just I don't like it. I think they're just idiots, basically. I think some of the things the T1 fans do are really horrible things to do. I think they're actually unacceptable. I think they do cross the line sometimes, and that should not be. And that's why, if you notice, I don't tend to actually go as mad on the fans as I go on T1 and the idea that you're being irresponsible by, like, I do think you are soft fanning the flames of that behaviour and pretending like, oh, we tell off the bad ones, but it's almost like you're like wink, wink. Like, I don't know if you do. I feel like you play a dangerous game with those ultras that like you make it sound like you're messaging to them that you agree. Essentially, it reminds me of what certain political figures do, where they will never openly say they support the extreme elements of their political party, but they sort of like softly do, if you know what I mean, or like they try to make them feel like they support your aspect, So
there were some good people in those protests.
Of course.
Some good people with torches.
I'm just not a fan of that. I don't think it works. So to me, easily T1 fans win that one. That they win this one all day long, boys. The joke is, I almost fondly look back on TSM fans now. And I'll give you an example, actually. If you know what, I've got the best example I could give you as to what the difference is. He's picked 2015 there, so it's like the prime era of when TSM fans were at their most unbearable, because this was still when TSM used to make every final and every Worlds, and everyone had to say all their players were the all LCS players. Here's why I'll tell you T1 fans are way worse. Because at the end of 2016, I was once on holiday in Korea with a girlfriend of mine, and I got a random message on like Skype or something of like a friend request from Lena. I think I've told the story before. And she added me and she was like, look, I know obviously you and Reginald don't get along and you've had beef with some of the fans in the org, but actually we were thinking about this and you're an influencer and we're a team and we should actually figure out a way we can sort of have like a middle ground where we can participate in your content and have our voice heard, but you also can like interact with us and still be yourself, and we won't take it personally that you like flame us in the game. And I remember thinking like, oh, fair enough. So if people remember back then, I actually did do like a Reflections with Reginald. I know people are going to think I'm trolling. It's on my YouTube channel. Go look it up. I did a Reflections interview with Reginald. Lena also set up like, I think I did one with Bjergsen. I did another one with Doublelift. And if you ever went back then, Yamato, TSM fans didn't go, what the fuck? You're doing content with Thorin. I'm not a TSM fan anymore. They were like, oh, this is cool. Oh, look, I used to think he was a dickhead too, but hey, this Reflections with Bjergsen's great. Or like, here's the difference, Yamato. If me, I mean, forget me, I'm not even involved in league to this degree. Say Dom did some awesome piece of content with some like T1 player now. By the way, that would be an amazing idea. Imagine what an amazing piece of content Dom with a translator could do with like Owner about how he plays jungle or his vision for the game, or Faker about clutch moments. That would be great. But here's the difference. I genuinely think this is what makes the distinction. I think T1 fans would be outraged, mate. I think they would do that thing like, how dare you? He's one of our biggest haters. Well, because they already do it with people like K-Drum, mate. You've had it. They already do that thing where it's like, you don't even have to have said something. By appearing on a show with me or Dom, you're a criminal. You're evil. You're aligned with the dark. Do you see the distinction there? I feel like that shows that T1 fans were more reasonable in a way. Whereas T1 fans feel like once they draw the line and you're on the other side of it, you're like the enemy till death, mate. Like you can never cross that line again. Do you know what I mean?
No. You framed it perfect. I'm with you. This course is not the same. It has grown to the point where people can find equity and value in being a voice. So malicious people take over. It's always with any groups and any size, any communities. It's like when it becomes big enough, people are going to fight for power because being a voice in that group is going to be a force of power. That's humanity.
For this one, you're going to have to pull up a little Gamepedia and have a quick look. Because it's a good question, but we're going to have to quickly have a little look. The question goes, it's by someone called Jay. He says, in your opinion, which world championship is the best bracket draw of all time? He then also says, is the one where like it was a missed opportunity because of upsets. But I think the main one is, which do you think was the best bracket draw for worlds? So there's not too many. There's only, we're only talking like 14 or something, or 13 or something, but which one, when you look at it, we'll just have a quick scan. Which one to you stands out as like, now that's a fucking straight fire bracket? Obviously, a little bit's going to be contextual, but, we got a few minutes we can work with this. So I'm just looking some up. Yeah. 2015, not that crazy. Not good on that one. Let's have a look here. I've got to say already, a decent contender actually is, I think 2018 Worlds is a pretty great bracket. I think there's some excellent, interesting strength on both sides. That was an interesting one.
The painful part about that one is just KTIG facing off against each other so soon.
You'd rather that was like a semi or final show. I'm with you on that one. I think the 2019 is a pretty balanced one. That's quite balanced actually when you go look at that bracket. That's a pretty fair bracket, I think. Some good matchups. Let me see what else.
It's crazy that C9 and Albus Nox Luna made it through, but that 2016 bracket is also looking
pretty good.
So juicy. Yeah, we had like the Korea versus China matchup as well. But it's like it's just two. There were two teams that just don't belong in the bracket that were there for some reason, like in terms of skill. Let me take a look at the 2019 one that you mentioned. Let's see.
Because the problem I have is, I actually think, for example, like the 2023 one, I think that bracket, the bottom half of the bracket was way too stacked. You know, the one where the bottom half of the bracket was like JD, KT, LNG, and T1. Like, that felt really unfair, mate. And look, I know T1 did win Worlds out that side, but like, I think if you're anyone except T1, I feel really unfair about that bracket. Like, maybe I would have been in the final playing that fucking team. Like, mate, even people like the KTs of the world were really good back then. LNG was excellent. Like, I think that bracket's really bullshit, personally. That was one I wasn't a fan of.
Honestly, the 2019 one is pretty damn nice.
It's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, that's pretty fair, I think.
I like the 2019 one. It's like the opening matchups are so are just perfect. Like Griffin IG, FPX Fnatic, Damwon G2. This is a very, very nice.
By the way, I actually think last year's bracket's pretty good. You go and look at last year's playoff bracket, like, what people just forget. People like Animal Life just lost early. Like, that's like a very fair bracket, mate, with some good matchups, like decent strength on both sides.
Yeah. No, this looks nice too. Yeah, it's like the semifinals could have been different, but this is how they were, and I think this is a very, very nice one as well. I like this one. I don't think that I would change anything about this bracket, honestly. I think these were the perfect matchups.
Right, if you know the person, Bot Pounder 420, who's not only been a long time LFN Discord subscriber, he's also from my Discord. The problem is all his questions contain like a joke or irreverence to them. So it's always hard to know if he's being serious. So I can't even tell if the question itself is serious. Like, the question is House, as in that show with Hugh Laurie as the Doctor, is House the funniest non-comedy TV show? Now, that's why I already can't tell if he's trolling, because to me, surely it is a comedy. I can't tell if he's being serious and he means it's supposed to, in theory, be serious with comedic elements, or if his joke is that, like, you're supposed to just pretend that's not a comedy, that's just how that character is. So I can't tell. What are you a fan of that show, by the way?
Bro, I haven't watched any House. Like, so,
oh, really?
So
I think you would actually enjoy it. I think you would enjoy that show.
Okay. The gist of it, like my understanding of it is that you have the house dude, the guy, the doctor, who just is a random disease, and then it's like, he's struggling with this disease, and then he like throws a hammer at the wall, and in the wall he's like, I realized what the problem was, and then that's the end of the episode.
Oh, here's the thing. I'll tell you, first of all, it is a good show. The only thing I think wasn't as good is it's one of those shows where it did last a long time. There's a lot of seasons. But the early seasons especially are pretty strong, because essentially the premise goes like this. There is a guy who's like a brilliant doctor, but essentially you have to realize, the reason why I think you would like it, by the way, is that almost certainly I've never looked into the history of the show, but almost certainly they copied the character of House off like Sherlock Holmes, mate. I'm telling you, that's what they're trying to make it. So he's not just like some random guy. Like, first of all, the actor is quite a strong actor. He's this British actor called Hugh Laurie, and he's a guy who actually did a lot of comedy stuff earlier in his career. But he does a very serious job, and essentially it's a character that is a bit like Sherlock Holmes in the sense that he's like really brilliant at, like, when, as you're saying, there'll always be a disease where you can't figure it out, like what is it or what's causing this, and essentially he's able to use really brilliant lateral thinking like Sherlock Holmes to do the beauty of Sherlock Holmes essentially is that famous line that goes, once you eliminate whatever is improbable, whatever's left, no matter how improbable, it must be the truth. It's the idea that it's not the obvious way to solve the problem, but if there is a way to, his brain can see his way through it and avoid like human biases. Essentially, he has that element to him where the solutions sometimes are quite clever. Yeah, it's a TV show, so there has to be like a lock element sometimes. But then the other dynamic is, at the same time he's solving these cases, he's actually like working with these like understudy doctors who are all their own character, and it's the dynamic of him with them. And then that's where like there is comedy elements, and like actually he's quite a witty character. And then also some of the solves are quite clever, actually. Some of the angles of like how they come up with the thing. Like, whoever sold you it made it sound way shit. I actually think it's
you've done a way greater job.
Yeah. And it's also a show, I can tell you, where you don't need to watch, like, it's not some anime shit, like, get ready for season 3. Bro, if you just watch 3 episodes and you don't vibe with it, don't worry about it forever. But if you like the 3 episodes, you're probably going to be in for it. It's pretty good. I think it's a pretty good show. Let's see. Maybe we'll do one more.
You didn't answer the man. So...
the problem is, I can't tell if he's being serious. So is it the funniest non-comedy TV show? Problem is, to me, it's like half comedy. So maybe. I don't know.
We'll be happy with that.
We'll do one more, I think. One more question. Let me have a look here. Right, here's the question. It's just a random one, so this will be the last question of the show. Franny Boy asks, let's see, what is the largest animal the entire elephant talent together could kill, but only with primitive equipment? Spears, bows, spike pit traps. If you want, you can include extinct animal species as well. What's the largest animal, if we all banded together, we could take down?
I think there's large animals that are not so dangerous, right?
True. So, yeah, you might have a hack on that one. True.
So,
like woolly mammoth or something, probably isn't good at attackers, I'm guessing, right? You probably just kill it.
Oh, but woolly mammoths, they look dangerous, no? They have those husks.
Yeah, but here's the thing: would they charge you? I don't know. You just feed it a banana and then you just shank it in its nuts or something. Listen, I'm trying to come up with how to take it down. See, there you go. You're right. Yamato, we've hacked it. We're not even going to take this seriously. I would have Yamato. I would have Dagon. That's who I would pick. I would have Dagon, friendly face. He has an automatic charisma that would appeal to all animals and life species. He would just approach the woolly mammoth from the front very quietly. He would present some grapes. It would start, oh, yeah, good boy, good boy. As he does that, I step out with my blade straight to the nuts. Cut him off, shanked his nuts, then we all just charge in, stabbing it all over the place. It's dead. I know that's a tragedy because, as you say, we don't even know if that's an even animal. Maybe it was just grazing. I don't know, but it's dead now. The point is we win. It's dead. Massive woolly mammoth. We're eating for months off that. Stocked up the freezer. There's probably bigger animals, but they're probably hard to fight. I don't want to die fighting a massive crocodile or something like that. That sounds really bad. It sounds terrible.
I was thinking like, if we get to choose the environment, I think we could figure out ways to kill a blue whale,
Fight in the desert for a start off.
Yeah, there you go.
We're just cheating at all times on this.
He's in the desert, and then Thorin sneaks up and cuts off his balls. It's just easy.
It's also my move. If you notice, my go-to move is to cut off the balls when someone's distracted. So all I'm saying is
self-defense class with Thorin. Go for the balls.
All I'm saying is, if you ever become my enemy, watch your back. You better eyes in the back of your head. Keep your eyes on me at all times in the room. Exactly.
Thorin's hidden life. He's just a veterinarian, He's just.
And that also explains why I carry that little pocket knife with me at all times. No, whatever. I don't really. Anyway, whatever. I think that was a decent effort. We did a decent job there. Right. Obviously, we'll be back next week. If you'd like to submit a question, subscribe to the Last Few Nation Discord, and we'll be back next week to talk about everything, basically. So see you then.